Good day, gratitude family. This is Face the Nation with Bolden Unchained. And it's been a few days, quite a few days, but we're back now and we are ready to resume our lessons. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get my system set up or get the extra monitor that I was talking about, but we'll keep working on it. However, I may be able to stream to Facebook. Maybe that went, as I was hoping. But if not, I'll keep working on that too. And let's see, do we have any? I don't think we're going to watch a video tonight. Let's just see what we have set to the side here. Oh, yes, we do have something. Family, tonight we're going to watch, because as you know, Bolden Unchained is here. Bolden Unchained is here to assist our Black media, our critical thinkers, our scholars, and our professors. Bolden Unchained is here to assist in the uncovering and the confrontations against the many agendas, events, projects, and the genocides and exterminations against Black people in America. You know, we have no peace anywhere in the world. As a people, we are the most hated, and the Black woman, we are very hated, the most hated, least protected, most disrespected. So we did read Red Summer, 1919, and now we are reading Racial Violence in Kentucky, 1865 to 1940. And I know that it is some curiosity. Why are we starting with the era of slavery? I did want to go back to the beginning of slavery, but we don't have time. We're out of time. I'm out. I've wasted ample amounts of time just getting here. I wish we could go back through our great dynasties, like in the book the Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. But no, I don't have the time to go back that far. I'm starting at the hurt and the disconnect. Not the beginning of the hurt and the disconnect, which is the beginning of slavery and the indoctrination of our mental, of our psyches. But I am beginning where the hurt is, at the hurt, the disconnect among our people. And, I don't know if it's because as a collective, we weren't aware that our people were fighting back and rebelling. But somewhere along the way, we hate ourselves now. We have so much angst, so much anger and trauma, and we're so restless, mentally, physically, emotionally. Physically, we just restless because we don't know ourselves. We don't know our history. We can't dissect the things that we've gone through without upsetting those who've already benefited from it. But we as a people, we must know exactly what we don't know. We must find out. Our history is the most important thing that we need. Black America, we can't keep ignoring that we need to drink water. Ignoring the history that our ancestors have gone through. It's like we are literally ignoring that we got to breathe to keep living. We can't keep ignoring us. It's not working, and it's not gonna work. So yeah, that's why Bolden Unchained is here. We're here to help uncover these harsh truths. They happened. They happened, and they will happen again. And society will let it. Society will let it happen again. It's up to black people, black America, me and you, and you and you and you. It's up to us to make sure it doesn't repeat itself. Look around us now, black America. We have no friends. Look at the new world that's being built up around us. Who's to say any one of these other societies will say black people should be recaptured? Who's to say? You know they hate you. You know the world hates you. They don't want you free. Can't nobody tell you what to do, which they all want to tell you what to do. I'm just saying, be mindful, black people. Let's not leave here with, with our own fears and doubts and, demons on our babies. Yeah, we're in a sad state. We've never been this bad on each other. I believe excuse me here. I know I know it's very difficult. It's very difficult for us to have these conversations. I don't know why, society hasn't been sincere with us even to this point. I don't know why society hasn't been sincere with us, why they still refuse to be sincere with us, and we still are having this codependent addiction to them. We still need their interaction, whatever it may be. But I know one thing. When we gone from here, when we, the last of us, are gone from here, wherever you resting at, because you know what you're doing. Your heart know where it should be. It's going to be, or whatever. You figure it out. I don't know. I just want to say, when we do leave from here, rest assured, our babies, they're going to be dealing with what we left undone. For all the love of black folks. Yeah. So let's watch this video first. And this right here is Trouble Behind the Corbin, Kentucky documentary, 1991. Ooh, okay. Those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it. And that's kind of like another saying. I forgot who said it. I remember I had this book called The Sumerians or something like that. I let someone borrow it, and I don't think I got it back. But I think the introduction to that book began like a people who do not know their history. Or maybe that was something else, but I don't know. It's been many years ago. Of people who do not know their history. And something else to it, but it kind of reminded me of when I heard that right there. Maybe we'll look it up sometime. But let's go watch this video here. And it's 54 minutes, but I think we can watch at least a good portion of it, don't you? The struggle of man against power is the struggle of memory against forgetting.
One night when we were all sitting on the front porch, I heard bam, 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 bam. I thought, what? I asked Mr. Brooks, I said, what is that? What is that? He said, I don't know. He said, I heard something about that's going to run the colored folks out of Corbin. I said, run them out for what? We used to have American Legion post here, and we used to put on some minstrel shows here. One night we had a show where Shorty Fowler, he was the fire chief. He was dressed up as a colored man, and Joe Surfer, he was a policeman, and he run into Shorty Fowler, and he told Shorty, he said, "Don't you know we don't have much use for colored folks around here?" Shorty Fowler said, "Yeah, that's what I know. That's the reason I want to live here in Corbin, because the devil never would look for a nigger in Corbin."
During 1919, 28 major race riots occurred across America. During 1919, there were 28
One of the
major
riots
race
occurred in
riots.
Corbin, Kentucky,
One of
about
the
60
riots
miles from
occurred in the
Knoxville.
railroad town of Corbin, Kentucky on October the 31st, 1919. And it was 28.
I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to Corbin, Kentucky, the home of the Kentucky Fried Chicken King, Colonel Harlan Sanders. We are located approximately 75 to 80 miles north of Knoxville, Tennessee. We consider this to be one of the finest communities to
Some of
live
y'all
in
know
the
where these
Kentucky
areas
state of
at
Kentucky.
here, huh?
Corbin today, for
You
its
keeping the
size,
peace?
is about as
You keeping the
sophisticated a
peace?
town as you're going to find. I'm satisfied that Corbin, Kentucky will continue to progress, and I think that's the way it ought to be.
I noticed that Corbin, like other towns, has a Dixie Motel. They have a Dixie restaurant. They're
Everybody
not the
got
only
their
town that
head
has
down.
those, but again, these are some of the things that stand out when you go through a city like Corbin. That it definitely is a small southern town. But unlike most small southern towns, it has no black people. It seems like you go through any other town as long as we've been here, and you would see at least some older blacks at the courthouse area or somewhere, but not in this town.
They have chosen to live in either Barberville, Williamsburg, or north of Corbin, which is toward London, Lilly, Kentucky, a little community of Lilly, those areas. But their reason for that decision, I have no knowledge of that. I don't feel that there is any more prejudice in Corbin, Kentucky than you'll find in any other community in the country.
You know that man lying.
My daddy always had a gun beside of him, and I'm still the same way because I was raised that way. I grew up in a community, everybody knowed everybody, they helped everybody. And in other words, you know more about the other people than you know about yourself. We all stuck together. I remember a time when fried chicken sold for 10 cents a pound. I remember a time you get into Hipgrove Theater on Main Street in Corbin for a nickel. Went there one time and seen Roy Acup. And I've seen a lot of them over there. And I also know Colonel Sanders. Colonel Sanders would fight you. He did shoot one man I know of. Corbin was settled by Cumminses. And there was three brothers. One settled Whitley County.
want to talk to will tell you that the railroad is the only reason that Corbin is here. The old people who still live in Corbin finally remember it as a railroad town, and it has been that way for a long time. It built Corbin, and Corbin supported the railroad.
1900, the railroad and coal business allowed Corbin to become a major. The railroad brought prosperity, but it also brought trouble. When, at the start of the First World War, the railroad increasingly hired large numbers of black workers.
The jobs they were doing, and you've seen them in movies, picking up the rails and the cross ties and swinging these things in a rhythm. Blacks had the rhythm to swing those hammers. White people weren't as good at it. They were in here temporarily just building tracks over there in the L&N. And as soon as they got those switch yards built and whatnot, they'd have been transferred somewhere else. They wasn't in here taking nobody's job.
I think we have to look at the role of black labor after the Civil War, after the end of slavery, where black workers were used primarily as a reserve army of labor. That is, they could be called upon when there was a labor shortage and there was a need for black workers. They could also be dismissed when
What
there
did they
was
say in the book? They called it them scabs.
And in this instance,
because they were called in to
beginning the outbreak
build
of
the
First World
strikes
War,
and
there was a labor shortage.
boycotts that the workers was doing.
Johnny Dunn grabbed his little gun, sailed away just to fight the Hun. Over there, fighting everywhere, Johnny, did you dare?
The white men, of course, had been inducted into the military, so black workers were called upon, were needed, especially in industries such as the railroad industry. This brought the 200 black men into Corbin, Kentucky.
Well, when I first come to Corbin, that is in World War One, and them days you couldn't hardly find anybody doing the work. Everybody was drafted in the army.
Given that they had a relatively small black population, and all of a sudden you have this infusion, 200 black men, and then you have the return of white men who had been abroad fighting the war, return to their jobs, a return to their position within the society. So I think that there was a real concern about maintaining Corbin as people had known the town.
What started this, what you call run niggers out of town, started when we were building the East Yard. We had quite a few colored folks working for us then. And they had some shacks down there below the house where we stayed, right close to the creek over there. There was always a bunch playing poker over there. And so one night, there was two switchmen went over there and they lost all their money at a poker game, and they came back to town and said two colored men robbed them of their check. So below the house where we stayed, right close to the creek over there, there was always a bunch playing poker over there. And so one night, there was two switchmen went over there and they lost all their money at a poker game, and they came back to town and said two colored men robbed them of their check. So there was a fellow, they called him Pistol Pete. He always hung around the barber shops, and I've seen him several times. I didn't know what his real name was, but he formed a posse that night and run them colored people out of town.
They said that 4 niggers cut a white man up off the bed. I forgot whether he died or not, but I believe he did. I'm not sure. I heard a lot of hollering and crying and shooting. And I didn't know what in the world had happened because my husband was at work. at the roundhouse. So he had went to work at 6 and worked till 6 the next morning. But when he come home, he told me they had run the niggers out of town.
The white community had a band, and they would march at the sound of music to the homes of black people, knock on the door, and they'd come out.
But they'd beat those drums and knock on your door, and you had to leave your house. And then someone told me that they left the women. Now, I don't know about that. They took all the men and left the women.
Do you know how many men they took?
I really don't, because I was just about 4 or 5 years old.
What did they do with the men?
Well, they claim they put them on train.
They marched them to the train and put them on trains and shipped them out.
I had a 32 Colts in there of my own, 6 shots. Well, I said, I'll just help them out, I guess. And I just went out there and bam, 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 bam.
That's why I'm a Klansman and wear a Klansman's badge.
At the time of the Corbin riot, many people believed that white society was in peril
That's a movie
and
we
that
gotta
violence
watch,
was a
Birth of a
necessary
Nation.
means of protection. This was the message of the very
We
popular
will.
1915 film, Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation sparked a resurgence in the Ku Klux Klan. Membership exceeded 5 million. 1 out of every 10 white men in America joined the Klan.
When I was a little kid, I woke up during the night and I saw a cross burning. That's where they burnt the cross.
Is there something scary about a burning cross?
Sure is. Something scary about sea tar and feathers too.
Have you seen Tar and Feathers?
Yes, I have.
Many of the advances that Reconstruction had allowed were now taken away and replaced in the South with Jim Crow segregation. Blacks were disfranchised. Schools were segregated. The images of blacks were grotesquely distorted in popular culture. This was all part of the racial milieu.
When in trouble I need you, you will have to remember your own.
The attitudes that were shaped during this period would affect race relations for years to come.
To the land from where you came, whatever be its name, but don't be ungrateful to me.
I had a dog growing up. Show you a picture of him. Black, white feet, white throat, little white tip on his tail. I love that dog. That dog knew when I was going to service. He knew when I got in trouble. He knew when I was phoning home. He'd come up, lay on the porch, and look at the phone. And it'd ring. If it was from me, he'd bark like wild, make sure somebody answered the phone. You know what his name was? Nigger.
And that was your dog?
That's right. I love that dog. That wasn't no bad name. That's because he was black, shiny, pretty, muscular. Come on, nigger. You see? I wasn't using it in a bad way. They were run out of town not because they were black. They were run out of Corbin because they were drinking, gambling, and raising all kinds of cane with their newfound pocket money from the railroad.
One of the complaints that one of your informants has given was that these black men were playing cards and making a lot of noise. Well, for some people that was having fun, but for the town at that time, that was seen as a threat. I mean, what might they do next? Might they seek to molest a white woman? Heaven forbid. Usually there was some one incident that people would point to, and that could inflame the population.
Back then, the females didn't talk to the males. I mean, like the father, brother, we talked to the mother and the grandmother. My grandmother told me now, they was a girl, my great aunt, said she was attacked and mistreated by 5 black men. I'm sorry about that. Can you cut that out? Okay. Well, the black man confessed. She identified him the next day. Well, they took him up to a hanging tree. First tree they got, they done their work, which I don't think was right. And they done away with 4 that night. That's a sad story. And then the people got onto the railroad company and told them to take them out. Right across the bridge where the tap roots of the hanging trees at. Back then, if a lady got mistreated, they left up to the lady what to do. If she said skin them alive, they were skinned. If they were hanged, they were hanged. Because when people gathers in their cars and goes off to themselves, the man and the family, you know what they're going to do.
I have heard that story, I guess, 100 times since I've been in Corbin. And it's been told to me about 100 different ways, so I really don't know. I do know one thing for sure. There was a racial incident in Corbin that happened some 70 years ago. I would not pretend to describe that incident to you or anybody else because I don't know. In fact, I never have been told that incident by anyone who was actually there and seen it happen.
For some time now, I've been doing research on racial violence in Kentucky, and one of the things that most fascinates me is the whole concept of blacks being run out of various communities. This is the Lexington Herald, and so look at this. Right on the front page, the Lexington Herald, Saturday, November the 1st, 1919. Negroes driven from Corbin by mob of whites. And like newspapers quite often back then, they then would have several other headlines. Attack on railroad switchman Wednesday night given as cause of disturbance. And then they point out 500 pistol shots fired. The attacking mob of whites.
That article right there is a damn lie. So that son of a bitch trying to justify his damned expenses to come to Corbin. So he wrote up 500 shots fired and everything. I say you're wrong, and even including Corbin in your write-up, because you're going to harm Corbin and people are going to jump down your throat. Because blacks have not been discriminated against in this town.
The mob formed last night and searched the city for Negroes. The Negroes who felt the fury of the mob in the greatest degree were a gang of about 200 Negroes who had been working on the L&N grade for 10 months at South Corbin, where the railroad company is making big improvements. Crowds went to the restaurants and other public places, caught all Negro employees they could, and drove them singly or in gangs at the point of guns to the depot. Many Negroes were beaten and 200 were driven out of town. An extra coach was put on the L&N train number 31, and a carload of the Negroes were taken to Knoxville, about 90 miles south.
I just want to come back and say for all the love. For all the motherfucking love. Them your friends? Them your friends today? Yesterday? Tomorrow? And ain't a motherfucker said a word or a whisper about what's done happened to your ancestors.
The way I figure it, the white people thought they were being walked on. And some people won't be walked on, like taking their jobs or acting high and mighty. They won't put up with that.
What does a black person do when he's considered high and mighty?
Well, as he acts as if he knows everything and he's got all the money in the world. In fact, he's just natural big-headedness, way I think.
Well, that would go for anybody.
That would go
Mama,
for anybody.
not just a colored person. That go to everybody.
There were certain types of work that was considered black man's work. By doing these jobs, one showed that he knew his place.
I've heard people say, well, what does it mean about they know their place? You see? Then they'd get out of place when they started mixing and mingling. And they was
that's when
things I imagine got rough for them. I was born in Corbin, Kentucky, off of Engineer Street, 2 blocks from the bridge that you go across when you enter Corbin.
The hanging bridge.
And raised mostly in London, Kentucky. Because following the right, why my mother moved from Corbin. My grandfather was Charlie Kincaid. He was one of the richest persons in Corbin. He ran a saloon and a hack service, and that was in the main part of town.
Why did he leave Corbin?
Well, I think he got mixed up with some white women and finally took one of the women and left, went to Cincinnati and opened a saloon there. Once they got out of the South and crossed that Mason-Dixie line, well, you was free, absolutely free.
Great Migration, 1915 and 1919. Over 500,000 black fled the South.
People were living here, people were working here, and they were just physically removed. And we look at this today, no trace of these people at all. And I guess it's been this way for probably 65 years or more that people have come through this way.
What a
and forgotten
love.
all about what happened to them.
What a
Yet
sincerity.
the legacy of all of this still lives right on in the community of Corbin.
While I worked up in Ohio, we had to get on the bus, trolley car, and there was a black girl tried to knock me away because I reckon she had the big head. I don't know now about the woman. I really don't know. And I said, no, don't do me that way. I said, I'm a Cummins from Corbin, Kentucky, and she run like a scalded dog. And the reputation that my back people has made still hangs over our head.
Part 2.
I had a fellow one time tell me, and he drank quite a lot of whiskey, but he was a pretty decent kind of a fella. And he said, Roy, he said, I'm going to tell you something. And I've never forgot this. He said, you can go to church and Sunday school all your life and nobody will ever call you a Christian. But he said, you can get out on the street one Saturday night, get drunk and get arrested. The rest of your life, you're a drunk. And I think this kind of applies to the misconception of the racial situation about Corbin, Kentucky. One time, they had a problem, and it's always stayed with us, primarily, I think, because blacks never did choose to come back and be with us anymore. I think that's really behind us.
Woo! Spirit come through.
I think Corbin does have a different image or a different reputation than other communities in the state. And I think primarily because, well, there are two reasons. One is because in Corbin, currently there is only one Black resident of Corbin. That I think that makes a difference because it's real hard to deal for the citizens of Corbin to deal with the problem if they don't see it every day. Racism is a lot more subtle, and it's a lot harder for people to understand that. People do not wear sheets, so it's a lot more subtle, and people have a lot harder time understanding racism.
Only the indoctrinated. You got a hard time understanding y'all ass.
Corbin is not a racist community.
The town you were from, I'll bet you that when you was growing up, people had made niggers, colored or blacks, whatever you want to call them, step aside when they went down the sidewalk. That never happened here in Corbin. Never saw it happen.
I do believe that we're more modern today than we were then.
Do you feel that there's any purpose in looking at the legacy of the riot?
That I see none whatsoever. In fact, I feel that this, in some instances, creates more problems than it solves. I feel that in lots of instances through the media, I think the exposure of those situations only creates in the minds of people that, well, maybe we need to change those situations. And I feel that exposure is not the way to correct some misdeed that maybe did take place many, many years ago.
You know, they say that the racism is not here, but, you know, these people's parents, you know, it goes back several generations. And, you know, it's there to a certain extent, you know, in their children. And whether they like to admit it or not, it's there, you know. I mean, it's obvious.
I wouldn't mind for a couple, especially if they look like Whitney Houston.
Fucking niggers, what they are. So you heard that there was a reason that we were making this film.
A bunch of niggers trying to come in. So there's gonna be a bunch of blacks trying to move into Corbin. So there's gonna be a documentary for it.
Well, some people we talked to said that if blacks came in, it would be a good thing. You don't think it would be?
I don't. No. Oh, no.
Anybody want to smoke some pot? Hands, come on in there.
Get your damn ass in here. Damn. Parents see that, they'll die.
Well, they say we don't like them. I think they're cool as hell. I'm serious.
Hey, Buck, what do you think about black people?
Nigger! Nigger!
Black people should not do it. They never have. They should do it.
I like the way they talk, man. It's funnier than hell. Shit, bro.
People have kept their attitudes and they've passed them down to their kids. And that's the way people still think. I don't know. Very closed-minded town.
They shouldn't live here. I mean,
because they're thucking nigger, right?
Yeah.
Can't say that, they say thuck. Thucking nigger.
I cannot believe that a lot of our young people today, unless they're trying to get your attention, I don't believe they honestly believe that.
We get drunk on the weekends. Go out and get some women and take them home. That's what we do on the weekends.
Well, everybody goes around in circles and wastes their gas mainly. That's about it.
Well, there's a couple of counties around that'll come around just to cruise. About all there is to do around here, though. Tennessee welcomes you.
few jelly bellies.
Bootleggers buy it from them, and they'll come up here and sell it for like $1 or $2 more, 6-pack.
Climb over the fence.
Well, here we are.
Well,
I know the people's opinions around here. They think that there should be one city out of the whole United States where they should live in a completely white. I'm serious now.
White society.
A completely white society. I mean,
This is
you're
it.
looking at it, but I don't have anything against them.
How am I
at all.
comment? They've done a wonderful job. I mean, it's
This
so
is
beautiful.
White City, America.
Really?
To your left,
It
we
is.
have the KKK.
Where do you think prejudice comes from?
Yeah, that I cannot answer that because I do not know.
It's something that's handed down and they teach your children. Because I know a lady come to my school one time and she was from Virginia and she was selling insurance. And she was telling me that she didn't realize that people were just people and all of them were the same, that her parents had told her different.
David, would you consider your mother to be a prejudiced person or not a prejudiced person?
Not a prejudiced person.
Kathleen, how about you? Is your mother?
She doesn't have a precious bone in her body.
Oh?
She treats everybody just the same.
You show me a village with 200 people and I'll find you're a racist in that village. I mean, you know, they're around. It's not right. Kentucky may have more than
Now, see, I want y'all to watch this part right here. If you've been watching this and you get back to this, you know, just pay attention to this part right here. Now, with her old racist ass, see, y'all ass still back there in them little bit ass hick towns with them old racist ass devils. They just as motherfucking ignorant and dumb and blind to the racism that they created and still perpetrating against black people. Her son gonna say no, she's not prejudiced. The daughter gonna say she doesn't have a prejudiced bone in her body. Just straight motherfucking ignorant. Why not say it? That's what the fuck you is. Why not say it? And who friends with they ass today? Who cried over that woman when she passed away if she not still here no more? And them that daughter and that son. So who done integrated into this family? Huh? Mixed babies, married. See, y'all better wake y'all asses up. Hey, this ain't what we thought it was, baby. No. Mm-mm.
climb over the fence.
Well, here we are.
Well,
I know the people's opinions around here. They think that there should be one city out of the whole United States where they should live in a completely white. I'm serious now.
White society.
A completely white society. I mean,
This is
you're
it.
looking at it, but I don't have anything against them.
How am I
at all.
comment? They've done a wonderful job. I mean,
This
it's so
is
beautiful.
White City, America.
Really?
To your left,
It is.
we have the KKK.
Where do you think
Here we go, right here.
prejudice comes from?
Yeah, that I cannot answer that because I do not know.
It's something that's handed down and they teach your children. Because I know a lady come to my school one time and she was from Virginia and she was selling insurance. And she was telling me that she didn't realize that people were just people and all of them were the same.
But
And her
damn.
parents had told her different.
David, would you consider your mother to be a prejudiced person or not a prejudiced person?
Not a prejudiced person.
Kathleen, how about you? Is your mother?
She doesn't have a precious bone in her body. Everybody just the same.
He look like shit. He look
You
like
show
my
me a
ass
village
ready
of
to
200
just
people, and
like
I
her
might be a
mama.
racist in that village. I mean, you know, they're around. It's not right. Kentucky may have more than its share, and I'll tell you the reason why. There's been an awful lot of statistics kicked around, and of course, this has never come out of those statistics. But you know, we have the highest percentage of people who do not hold high school diplomas of any state in the United States of America. Now, this is not a charming thing to have to say, but it's the God's truth.
Probably everybody carries within them prejudices. Hopefully, hopefully a person is able to control their own prejudices and to go beyond them. I would disagree with those who think that Corbin is more racist than other communities or more prejudiced than other communities. Sometimes I think Corbin may have more of the mentality of a white suburbia that's around big cities where there are blacks in the area, but they're really not in your neighborhood, where there are blacks living near Corbin, but not in Corbin.
Well, our second home game, isn't it? Oh, nice one.
What do most people do when they get out of high school here?
Most people that leave school here go to college around here. You know, hardly anybody goes away. Go to Eastern or to University of Kentucky.
I guess I got the right thing right here, the right thing.
Corbin, in particular, I think, is a window through which we can understand racism in the United States, in the society as a whole. What happened in Corbin is not unique to what's happened in other parts of the country, in Forsyth County, Georgia, and Cicero, Illinois. But how do we understand the legacy of racism? Here we are 70 years or more after the race riot of 1919 in Corbin, Kentucky, but yet some of the attitudes that people held more than 70 years ago are still held by individuals today. Something occurred, something continued in this particular town as it has occurred, as it continues in towns and cities across the country where Black people have
White
not
folks
lived
kept
and
teaching
do
the
not live
boys
today.
And I'm proud to be here. And that's Corbin's number one, and I think they do a good job for me tonight.
We were always told, even as early as 6th grade, hey, the toughest team to play is Corbin because they don't like blacks.
When that play's been there for them all night, I'm surprised that they just now went to that and tried to go ahead and pitch a football because it's been there all night. They can hurt Corbin outside.
You know, when we went in there to play, we were scared to death. I mean, you know, it was bad enough when we come out, we got rocked. I mean, they'd throw rocks at your buses. They'd throw the big cinder blocks. You know, we had a couple of times where they were thrown through the complete windshield. In Corbin, yeah. And we've had to drive back. We had to drive back one night, and this was when I was a sophomore, and this is a basketball game, and they just crashed the whole front window, and we had to ride back home without it, and everybody was scared. They made us all lay down in our seats.
Well, we love our football. We love our basketball. We have a large following in football and basketball. It is a good place to live. It's a good place to rear your children.
Miss Sherry White, 17-year-old daughter of Michael and Patty White, escorted by Shannon Sam.
We like to keep our young people. We like to keep them coming back to our town because that's the only way that you're ever going to have a better town is when you keep the people.
17-year-old son of Mr. and Mrs.
Well, to me, Corbin is special. Because about everybody and their brother is my kinfolks through my people. If it's not but my mother's side, it's from my daddy's side. I call everybody my kinfolks here.
I don't think there are problems with traditions or habits binding a particular community together, giving it a sense of identity, as long as that's a sense of identity that's not exclusive.
Okay, Anna, can you move in just a little bit? And everybody else on this side so it's not dry.
Well, after all, we have to recognize that America, it's not a flat pattern. America is really a mosaic.
That's Spike, and that's the athlete, the little brown one behind us. He usually chases me off the lane, the little brown one. But he's not going to chase today. He's just looking at us. I am a yuppie in a two-income world that only has one income, so that's sort of why I deliver newspapers. I grew up in Corbin. My grandparents moved to Corbin. I'd say they were here by 1920. I'm not sure exactly when they came, but they moved with the railroad. Everyone here goes to church on Sunday, and I've gone all of my life too. They are concerned for each other, and if there's a death in your family, usually someone from one of the churches will serve. They will keep coffee made and different things for the people who come to your home to express their sympathy to you.
We have a church-oriented town. We have many large churches and many small churches, and the services are well attended. I have not been familiar with this in recent years. Has been, a town that really has any problem with ethnic minorities. We have no such problems as that. Well, primarily because we just don't have the ethnic minority living here.
From my first marriage, I have a daughter, which is nice. Alicia's one of the most long-standing relationships in my life, one of the most successful. I've done a man like Alicia, won't I? I think teenagers probably have the worst time of all, finding something to do here.
We don't even have a lawn here.
It's just a small town, definitely, and it's nothing like Mayberry.
2 or 3 years ago, and they were put on every vacant building on Main Street. It's definitely strange stuff. I mean, here you have Hitler sings, and then you have the swastikas on the sides. The power-crazy Pope John Paul II, because of Reagan's Irish Catholic background and his lust for the furtherance of the Vatican's world domination, he has made sure that we, America, are now the 107th nation that has given power and praise to the corrupt, anti-Christian Vatican. It's cute stuff.
I'm not prejudiced. I mean, I'm not gonna say I like every black person I've ever met, but after you live here a while, and you see one and you just freak out. It's a black person, wow, what are they doing in Corbin? And you start watching them, and then they get nervous because you're watching them.
We go down to visit Knoxville, often because we have some family down around there. And I'll find myself, and I don't really consider myself as being racist or anything, but I see blacks, and after a while, you live here long enough, you're uncomfortable around them. I mean, I never had before, but you get down there, and it's just odd that that they're there, but you don't really notice anything until you get out of Corbin, and it's a different world.
Get your scary punk ass.
We went to Corbin
to do some shopping. And I never shall forget that there was a small little white child, and she said, "Mama, what's that?" As if we weren't human. Said, "What's that?" And the mother said, "Shh." Said, "They'll get you."
If you exist in a society in which whole generations of people do not know how to interact with other people who are Americans, you have missed something. No matter how much you think your community is wonderful, how much you think it's without problems, you have missed a part of this country that is very vital to its survival. You can't go on believing that you are therefore a better American because you missed this. Okay, we're all moving forward into the 21st century. There are things we're going to have to know about each other if we're going to succeed in a world where the ozone layer is going to disappear on us. That's going to kill me. It's going to kill white people. It's going to kill Puerto Ricans, Indians. It's going to kill everybody. So we have to find ways, it seems to me, to begin at least to know something about each other in order to solve some of the problems we have.
I did have a newspaper reporter in Corbin ask me, what do we do? Do we put a sign out on I-75 saying blacks are welcome? And obviously that she didn't believe that, nor did I, but they've got to begin to change their image internally.
If you got white folks suggesting solutions for minorities, it comes across somewhat as patronizing a group that's you probably felt it's been patronized all too much. And without a minority in the community trying to move us along, we probably won't move very far.
I can't say I'm really familiar with other communities in the state that have had roads called Nigger Creek Road.
Nigger Creek Road.
I can't think of another example.
Boy,
To
y'all,
me,
people from there.
says that this is a community not really willing to make a change. What I would like to see come from Corbin is an acceptance that, yes, we do have our racists and we do have our problems and we want to deal with them. The mayor or city officials have to try to deal with it.
That's a fucking lie.
Why in the hell are y'all here? Now listen to me. What are you doing the film about?
I'm doing
About Corbin and the black people that are in it, right? Yeah, I know what it's about. My dad was in it in the beginning.
Yeah. My daddy was in it in the beginning.
Right.
Do you hate blacks, Justin?
No, I don't. That's what I'm trying to fucking say right here. I don't hate blacks. But 90% of blacks that come to Corbin screw up shit. You know what I mean?
You just passing through there.
Oh yeah, if you passing through.
You
supposed to be on the interstate, bro. You're supposed to be on the interstate. I wouldn't drive through Corbin right now. Not at night. I got nights. Them cops, buddy. They pull you over.
They're one of the biggest bunches here.
Maybe Corbin wake up. I don't know.
This is one of those communities where it just has a sense that it's unfriendly. Again, if there were other black people around, then you could say, well, this may not be too bad. But you would think in all of those years, somebody else would have come here. But clearly nobody has.
The one thing I was hoping was that we would definitely be out of here before it began to get dark. I just don't want to hang around here. Jeez.
I now live in Napoleon, Ohio. I wanted to get away from Kentucky because I felt here I'd be treated more as an individual. Some of the things that happened, whether I didn't know the truth or how they happened, but I knew one thing, that You know, there's other places in the United States besides Corbin or Kentucky. At the time, you know, it wasn't no big deal as far as breaking the color barrier. That's not what we were thinking of at all when I decided to go to Corbin. They just, I just wanted to play for an excellent coach, a hard coach. Then that would up my chances of getting a scholarship to a major college. It was going to happen. I mean, I was already enrolled in school. I was practicing with the football team. Most of the kids really wanted it, and they were pulling for it until I guess I don't know who stepped in, but there was definitely. They called my mom in Middlesboro, and she called me in Corbin, scared to death, because of the threat. I think you deprive the kids, and growing up around different races, because when you get out in the real world, you have to deal with it, and it's much faster and much more competitive than what Corbin is. And hey, this is not, my daddy or my uncle is not the sheriff or the principal or this. When you get out, it's what you can do as a person, and that's all that matters.
Hang and breathe. With the technology like the TV, see, black people have never been on TV, and you get all these different characters and all that, and then people begin to take to them more.
On the general rule, there's good ones. There's good colored people. Don't hold nothing against them. Because they're human just like we are. Well, we could have been black. Who knows? God rules, not man.
Corbin's aptitude for change was recently tested when McDonald's employed a black manager from Somerset, Kentucky.
But I heard that they had a colored man that was taking over, and we're not going to put up with it.
Oh,
I
shit!
Heard that now walking around in roses.
Whoa! Whoa! Wait a minute.
You know what that was?
Wait a minute. Hold on. No. Wait a minute. This whole time, ain't they been saying that Corbin is not racist, and because you're gonna act like one night portrays them as racist? That's not true. This whole diatribe, all these lies, when the very people right there, some of them showing their faces. The daughter definitely probably still alive. If something haven't happened to her, the mama might be gone now, because this was like, 70 years ago, I guess. I don't know. But once they hired that black manager for McDonald's, Corbin said, hell no. We ain't racist, but we don't want them here. Let's get back to it and see here, because the bullshit still ain't changed, y'all.
He come rocking in here and he tried to boss the people that were building McDonald's.
Yeah. Well, we could have been black. Who knows?
No, she couldn't handle it.
God rules, not man.
Ooh.
But I heard that they had a colored man that was taking over, and we're not gonna put up with it. I heard that down walking around in
that
Rose.
shit real quick. Sure did.
You know what that was? You want to know the truth on that? He come rocking in here and he tried to boss the people that were building McDonald's. And he was walking around over there bossing the union crew, telling them how to do this and how to do that. They knew how to build that building better than he did. It wasn't the people in Corbin that run him out. It was a crew that was building the McDonald's that called the people that owned McDonald's and said, get this man out of here. He's aggravating us to death.
Yes, honey, they changed that shit real quick. McDonald's tried to hire a motherfucking black manager. What?
I don't believe the town leadership, and I'm not here pointing a finger at anybody else in some way, including myself in that group. I don't think the leaders in the community have helped Corbin and helped people Corbin to face up to the history and to face up to our own tradition. We haven't discovered the true story of what happened in the past. I think that's a first step for dealing with the present. And forgetting just continues the wrong.
Negroes driven from Corbin by mob of white people.
In the morning, running them out. And of course, when I went down to the shop the next day, I naturally, like anybody else, I was inquisitive and I tried to find out what it was all about. Well, they told me they run all the niggers, as I said, out last night. I said, where did they run them? Said, well, we put them on a boxcar and shipped them. I forget now what they said. Anyway, they left. Of course, that's been 60 some odd years ago.
Well, there you have it. There you have it from the horse's mouth, all of them. The town of Corbin. And the leading lady, whatever her name is, and her daughter and her son and the townsfolk said that they was not racist, but honey, as soon as McDonald's put that black manager in there, all shit hit the fan. And they said, hold on, hell no. That's when the racism showed in them. But it's always been there. It's always been there. We don't know. We don't know. We can't look into a person's heart, a person's mind, to know if they are racist, any more than we can look into a person's heart and mind and know if they have ulterior motives. You know, that's why we have to use discernment. And black people, black America, we have to use discernment. I mean, I know what it feels like. I know exactly what it feels like to not be able to be proud and love us and lift us because of the uncomfortability and, you know, and the taboo that white folks feel if we do these things for us. And I don't give a damn. And you shouldn't either. You shouldn't either. The game is over now. The game is over now. If you were looking at black media, you would see that it's over now. We ain't got to pretend no more. You ain't got to play possum in that burning house no more. You can wake up. You can wake up and get the hell out if you want to. Because, honey, where we've been led, where black people been led, you better hope it don't end up where it used to be. Because our ancestors didn't go through all of that. They didn't endure all of that suffering to help us avoid and escape slavery, for us to turn around and end up in it. Because you know the beginning of that video said a people that do not know its history is doomed to repeat it. And that's on both ends. They doomed to let it happen again because their higher ups have put it in play. Like Project 2025. And common white folks will let it happen. Now, on the other hand, when you flip that around and stuff, we will let it happen because we ain't paying attention. And we think it won't happen. But it just said at the beginning of that video right there, history will repeat itself. So Black America, I don't know what's it going to take, you know, for each and every one of us to just evaluate things. Just evaluate things. And you know, I don't try to be harsh, and you don't either. You don't have to be harsh, you know, to get your point across. What the pastor said in that other lie, racial reconciliation. If we want to have it, if we intend to have it, racial reconciliation with white folks, and a whole lot of us is saying, hell no, we done. We are done with white America. A lot of our people are working on their own businesses. They forming their own sufficient passive incomes, becoming financially free. Quite a few of us are, because we have come to the realization that white America don't give a damn about Black America. Everybody in this country, even those that just got here, is benefiting. It's benefiting. Yeah, I bit my lip up right there. It's benefiting, except for Black people. Everybody getting something somewhere. Just because you ain't giving it to your people and stuff here, don't mean you ain't getting it. But Black people, we ain't got nobody giving us nothing. And it's just time for us to start looking out for us. I mean, I just don't know what else to say except for get your ass up. Find out who's who. Hell, tell them show yourself. What the hell else they gonna do? I mean, look at that. Corbin, Kentucky. It wasn't in this book. And it wasn't in the Red Summer either, I don't think. Maybe it was in the Red Summer 1919. I really don't think so. But that little small hick town, it's so many of them. It's so many of them. You know, white folks are the cause of all this chaos and stuff. This is the longest grudge ever. Crossed my mind. But let's get into our book right here, because we need to finish this book right here before we move on to our next book. Racial violence in Kentucky, 1865 to 1940. I don't know how long we're going to be with the Midnight with the Ancestors. We just at this point playing it by ear. Chapter 5, Holding Back a Rising Tide. 1875 to 1899. Afro-Americans consistently attempted. Oh, before I begin this right here, I did jot it down a few things and I wanted to read them because we don't know how this chapter gonna go. But when he was saying that the blacks that ran out of Corbin, all of them black people left out of Corbin, left their belongings, their most loved family possessions, Corbin, Kentucky. And you know, it's like this whole town is under the impression that they not a racist community. But everyone even talk racist in Corbin, Kentucky. When was that video? A couple years ago, maybe a decade ago. That elderly lady, I don't know if she's still living with her racist self, but her daughter and her son, where's these people at now? Who done married into these racist families and stuff? Corbin, Kentucky. I mean, you know, we don't know these things. That's why I say, you know, just because we got a white friend at work or a white friend at the fitness center, whatever, we don't know who the hell they families is. You know, and we want to go doing all this swimming and hiking and camping and stuff. No, we're going to have to use discernment. Discernment is what Black America needs. Here, what I ain't been on live in a few days, but from what I tell here, we on the cusp of a World War III. What the hell they done got us involved in? We ain't even done nothing to nobody. Black people just trying to take care of black people. That's all. And everybody else too. Everybody else too. Well, now black people trying to take care of black people. You know, we ain't trying to hurt nobody. But we like, what the hell is our leg up? Everybody been telling us to pull up your bootstraps. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Where they at? Where is they at? What about black people? We right up on a new world order. We ain't got nothing. So yeah, let's join with black media so we can learn and get on code. Because I don't know what that pastor was talking about and who his white brethren are. But honey, if they want some racial reconciliation, it start right here. Racial reconciliation. It's going to start right here. White people going to have to acknowledge this. They did this. Because of this right here, it is my belief that this whole disconnect, this whole self-hate that Black America feels is because we feel like we wasn't fighting back. We feel like we didn't fight back, but we did. Mainstream media, they just never told us that Black America was fighting back against white American clans and the night riders and, you know. And now we hate ourselves so much, you know. We don't know what to do with that hatred but to just come down on us. And we ain't got to come down on nobody. We don't have to come down on nobody. All we got to do is focus on Black America. White America going to take care of itself. And the other peoples that's here, they're going to take care of themselves. But us, Black America, we're going to have to start taking care of ourselves. That's it and that's all. Anybody that don't agree with it, that don't understand it, that's too motherfucking bad. We too far along at the end to worry about what other folks is saying because we want to talk about what the fuck y'all ancestors did. You gotta talk about it. You cannot not talk about it. And if white folk don't want to talk about it, then y'all need to get the hell away from us because it speaks the truth. This is how you feel. Go on and say it. Life is over as we know it. Who finna be more uncomfortable than we have been, than our ancestors have been? Who finna be more uncomfortable than this? You tell me. Peggy Sue? We worried about Peggy Sue. Well, you know damn well when the shit hit the fan and they go sick them, you know they finna go with their own. Let them go. It's time for Black America to think about us. We act like we can't see a life without our open enemy. We hate each other so much. And we ain't looking for no ways to heal us. We ain't looking for no ways to heal us. But the pastor, talking about him and his brethren, want to do racial healing, racial reconciliation. What about us? Shouldn't we reconcile as a people, as a collective? Shouldn't we reconcile? We got so many issues and problems within our community, and we know why. We know motherfucking why. We know why there's no Black family. And I'm going to tell you another thing. When they flipped that whole transgender gay thing, and ain't nobody doing it no more, but Black people, ancestors take the wheel and the tires. Y'all ass gonna look like motherfucking fools. Because that's all it is. It's a distraction for Black America. Some people see these agendas as an honor to do them. Oh, yeah, this finna fool Black people. Oh, yes, I would love to do this. Give me the whole surgery, change everything on me around and stuff. I would love to trick Black America. I'm in on it. But how do they know these things? Is it instinct? Like they all gravitated? Is it an instinctual thing? I'm not the division. I'm not dividing nothing. This is where the division came from. I want to know, and my people want to know. Black America, whose side are you on? Your little bit baby's in there asleep. What time is it? 1:27 a.m. Your little bitty baby's in there asleep. And you still don't want no reconciliation and healing and talking about the trauma, facing the fears for them little babies in their sleep. What you gonna tell them? Oh, we just gonna forget about this again. Forget about our ancestors again. Everybody forgetting about it but white people. Because guess what? In that video that just played, that's what they do. That man said he done heard that story hundreds of times. Told this way, told that way, probably embellished. Some pieces taken out, some pieces added in. And that's how they keeping it alive. We're not keeping it alive by talking about it. We're trying to heal our people, our collective. Just because individually you doing okay, don't mean that you should ignore your people. Hell, I thought we all was doing okay. I'm not lying. I promise you, I thought Black people was okay. I thought white people was okay. Hell, I didn't even know about all of this. No wonder white people so nice. Why wouldn't you be the nicest, most kindest, generous person when you know what your great-grandmama, your great-granddad, and them uncles and them aunties did to them Black people that they strung up and cut off their fingers and ears? And why wouldn't you? It ain't sincere, but damn. What make us think that all of this that happened is not worthy? I don't get it. I don't know, but I know one thing. Black America better wake the hell up, because this is the end of it. The whole world, even the animals in the wild, them animals out there in Africa and stuff, y'all. Them animals and stuff in Africa, the tigers and the elephant, the giraffes, all them majestic animals, they waiting on black people to wake up too. The earth, Mother Gaia, is literally waiting on black America to wake up. And it's all because the people that be is destroying life as it was meant to be. Don't ask me. I don't know either. Don't ask me. I don't know. You ain't been feeling it. You ain't been paying attention. Well, I don't know. Maybe grow your hair out. Stop eating meat. Some detox some kind of way so you can get the downloads too, because it's happening. I don't even look at the news and stuff. I look at black media. Start watching you some black media, because I don't know, but everything is being revealed. And this right here won't be ignored no more. Red Summer won't be ignored no more. This is it. You got to choose whose side you on. So let us get back to reading, because we got a whole lot to read. If you got you some books, then you can read a chapter 2, because I'm thirsty. Where my water at? I'll send you some verses where you can read too. Because honey, we got to know, and we ain't trying to be mad at nobody or nothing like that. Hell, it is what it is. Shit. Hell, if white people really sincere, go on and tell your peoples that be to cut that motherfucking check before Sophia, Bean 78, and the little baby robot, what's his name? San Diego, something, hit the streets. Yeah, that's all you got to do. You do that and give us space. Stop infiltrating our space, acting like we some type of a team where everybody looking out for everybody, because white America is not looking out for black America. They never have, and they never will. So make plans to get them babies. But yeah, I wanted to go through those right there, just some notes that I had wrote down. Oh, I think them race riots from 1919. Oh, and they were called massacres. They were called race riots, but those were nothing but massacres. Every last one of them. It said that there were 28 massacres in 1919. I didn't know it was that many. I knew it was quite a few, because you know we read 1919, but I didn't take notes that thoroughly like I should have, but I'm learning how. And you are too. Yeah, and you are too. I don't know where I put my water at, but yeah, we got a lot of reading and studying to do, you know. And this is where we starting. We starting with where the hurt is, you know. I wish we could go back to destruction of black civilization, you know, and the dynasties, you know. But hell, we lucky shit. We close to the door, so we could get out. The house burning. Martin Luther King told y'all, I fear I left my people in a burning house. This house is burning. It's smoking. Why is we laying here in all this smoke, playing possum? It's time to get up and go. We can go now. Life as we know it is over. Yeah, there will be no eating. Look at the change that's going to happen next year in 2025. Yeah, things going to change and stuff. Black America, we did not take the choice to be able to fight another day. We took the force to get up, get our ass up. And that's Trump. With Kamala, we could have lived to, you know, hold off some things and make the next 4 years at least tolerable. But now, yeah, we forced to do what we got to do. So yeah, we finna, as far as I'm concerned, we finna delve into the hurt. That's where faith starting at. Yeah. And this right here is chapter 5. Holding back a rising tide, 1875 to 1899. Afro-Americans consistently attempted to end the numerous lawless acts occurring in Kentucky. In strong terms, they denounced lynchings and mob rule, often urging the state and federal governments to intervene to protect their lives and their property. On rare occasions, county judges, prosecuting attorneys, and concerned civic leaders called for the adoption of appropriate measures to prevent lynchings, even when they believed that a Black was guilty of an especially heinous crime. But clearly, the usual response of white people continued to be one of support, not condemnation, of lynch law. Support of lynch law. Even though they simultaneously spoke of their respect for the law. Like that video, they were just saying, we are not racist. We don't have a racist bone in our body. My mother's not president. Then as soon as they put the Black manager at McDonald's, everybody rose up. Oh, hell no. Go get him, lynch him out. And ran everybody up out. I mean, the double tongue, this doubleness, you know, it's just crazy. Yeah, and we just tolerate it. Yep. Nevertheless, by the 1890s, a number of white leaders, primarily Republicans, agreed with Blacks that the state had to take a strong stand against mob rule. Because of their efforts, Kentucky became one of a handful of states to pass an anti-lynching law. After a lynching, whites often feared some form of retaliation from Afro-Americans. Although unconcerned about being prosecuted by the law, the leaders of lynch mobs sometimes sold their property and left the area after the incident, after fear that the Afro-Americans would seek a measure of revenge. Blacks, for example, were responsible for a series of fires in Georgetown and other cities after lynchings had occurred. In short, despite the lynching epidemic in Kentucky in the late 1800s, Blacks were far from passive and attempted in a number of ways to combat the problem. Now, where I'm from, there was a lynching, I forgot the year and I don't have the notes here, of Ike Fitzgerald, maybe 1908, 1901, of Ike Fitzgerald. And Ike was lynched in the town, it's a little small hick town. Ike was lynched in the middle of the little town and stuff, and the main street was set on fire. At least 30 buildings burned up, and they never found out how the fire started, but they suspect that the Black people in my hometown, started those fires out of retaliation for the lynching of Ike Fitzgerald. I was just doing some studying, some reading and stuff, and it came up. We'll go through that book too, because you may recognize some names and places. I'm sure you will. I put an asterisk by a whole lot of them. Yep. Because we don't know. We do not know. Oh, you mean to tell? Oh, for real. It does matter. To me, it do. It does matter that your motherfucking great auntie, cousin, sister set up my great godson's daughter-in-law. Something like that. However it's gonna go. It does matter. It don't matter how far back it go. To be able to do these atrocious crimes, where's the love? The trust. Somebody didn't know. Oh, somebody decided, we ain't gonna say nothing about that. As if it never happened. As if it'll never happen again. Just Black America, just wake up. We got to start thinking for ourselves. I don't care how crazy and out in left field it may sound. It may sound. If it come in your head, you're allowed to think about it. Our Creator don't want us to shy away from the truth. It says seek the truth. It ain't blasphemy because you want to know. Don't your God want you to know the truth or not? That's all I'm saying. But yeah. Yeah, so this right here, it is working. Because of their efforts, Kentucky became one of a handful of states to pass an anti-lynching law. Okay, we read that right there. Yeah. On at least one ill-fated occasion, a white sheriff attempted to prevent a mob from taking a Black prisoner. Richard May, M-A-Y, was arrested on a charge of rape in Owensboro in July 1884. Rumors circulated for several days that May would be lynched. The sheriff, a former Confederate, boldly stated his determination to protect May's life. He would die in the line of duty if necessary. On the night of July the 14th, a mob of heavily armed men stormed the jail. True to his word, Sheriff William J. Lucas tried to repel them, firing 13 shots into the mob and seriously wounding one of the men. The sheriff's opposition seemed to arouse the fury of the mob. They responded by shooting at Lucas. Several bullets hit their mark. As Lucas lay dying, his wife picked up the fight, attempting to turn back the mob, but greatly outnumbered, she was quickly overpowered. The mob broke down the cell door with a sledgehammer, took May, and hanged him from a tree outside the courthouse. A lot of them courthouses in our little hick towns is where they did these lynchings. And days before, they done put it out in the newspapers and let the schools out so the little kids and the people could get off from work and catch the train and drive to see the lynchings. Courthouse. Instead of giving other sheriffs and deputies the courage to stand up to the mob, Lucas's decision to protect his prisoner might have convinced them even more that their lives were not worth risking for Afro-Americans accused of murdering, and especially of raping white women. Because, see, a lot of these situations that we read in 1919 and in the beginning of this right here, even though they knew the guilty party was arrested and would be lynched, they had a fiending. A fiending is like they couldn't help it. They just slobbing and grumbling all over. They had to have that atrocious, just rip your body to shreds, and that they did to black people. It wasn't enough to know that, oh, this man committed a heinous crime. He's gonna be executed. No, they had to go through the point of literally lynching him. One guy, they shot his body so many times and stuff, it wasn't nothing left of his body. What little pieces it was, just the big piece that was here and big piece that was there and stuff, just threw it on the fire and let it burn. That's what they needed to see and experience. And that's what released all of that animalistic, that clanimalistic tendency. I don't know. Don't ask me how I know. I'm just reading it too. You should read it too. They need to read it. What a lie. Just tell me, where is the lie? Tell me why else it happened. Will Brown, tell me why else it happened. 5,000 to 10,000 people. One lynching with 50,000 people. How far did y'all asses come to see that black man lynched like that? And nobody even said nothing. Then after his body was just burning on the fire and stuff, somebody went up and cut off his ear. See, those things right there, that's deep. That's within our people. Self-hate is taught. Oh, yeah, self-hate is taught, baby. Who taught you to hate yourself the way that you do, Black America? You damn right I feel some type of way. Everybody should. They should feel some type of way. Let's make this right. And be sincere, white America. Because y'all ain't never been sincere with us. Don't say what happened to his wife. They probably let her go, even though they might have killed her. Because shit, they was laying down their life, her and her husband, for that black prisoner, William May. So, yeah. Throughout the late 1800s, law officers and state officials were far more likely to challenge a lynch mob if the intended victim was white. A white man named Roberts was on trial for murder in Vanceburg in July 1877. Officials had 40 armed guards to protect him during his trial. Roberts was not lynched. 2 white men sought in the brutal murder of Pearl Bryan, Bryan, were returned to Kentucky from Ohio in May 1896. To protect them, state officials sent 40 rounds of ammunition and wagon loads of overcoats and blankets to the area. These men, too, were not lynched. They didn't lynch them. They couldn't get them. All they had to do was stand up. One of the most widely publicized efforts by state officials to prevent lynchings occurred in northeast Kentucky in the early 1880s. In Ashland, on the night of December the 23rd, 1881, 3 white men, later identified as George Ellis, E-L-L-I-S, William Neal, N-E-A-L, and Ellis Craft, C-R-A-F-T, entered the home of Mrs. J.W. Gibbons, G-I-B-B-O-N-S, and raped and murdered her 2 daughters. Her son was also killed. After their arrest, the 3 men were taken to Lexington for safekeeping until the start of the trial, which was moved only a short distance from Ashland to Cattlesburg. Ellis, the first defendant to go on trial, was found guilty of murder and quickly agreed to testify against Neal and Kraft in hopes of avoiding the gallows because they were going to hang him. But before the start of the next trial, several hundred men from Ashland arrived in the town, overpowered the jailer, and lynched Ellis from a sycamore tree. The authorities decided to postpone the trial of Neal and Kraft for several months, but the delay had no effect on the mob's desire for revenge. Fully aware that a lynching might occur, local officials requested state troops to guard the 2 men when the trial began in Cattlesburg on November the 1st. Once the trial started, the defense lawyers requested a change of venue. In a concession rarely granted to Black defendants, the judge agreed that Neal and Kraft could not receive fair trials in the same environment where Ellis had been lynched, and ordered their return to Lexington, Kentucky, until the start of the trial in Carter County. However, leaders of the Ashland mob were determined that the men would not leave the area alive, even if it meant a fight with the state troops. Upon learning that the roads and the trains from the area were being closely watched by the mob, Mayor John Allen, commander of the state troops, took control of the steamboat Granite State to carry his group to Maysville or to Huntington, West Virginia. But when it left the shore, the steamboat came under gunfire from members of the mob who had seized a train that ran parallel with the river. Ain't that some shit? So why they on the steamboat and he taking them, the Black men, to safety? They motherfucking asses done hijacked the train, and they over there in the train shooting over here in the steamboat to get to the Black men. Make it make sense to me why we don't give a damn, why we don't care. Peppa Pig who? Everything else what? This not important enough? Why? Who's scared? Who's scared? In black and white. And then you know what they said, put something in a book and Black people ain't gonna read it. That's a damn lie. We love to read. Somebody say you want to read too. Let's get started. Fuck they motherfucking ass. I mean, how the hell? But to go through these lists and stuff, it's anti-life. Woo-wee. Man, I can't believe that. Can you picture it? Can you picture it? On orders from Mayor Allen, the state troops returned the fire, killing 2 of the mob and wounding almost a dozen others before returning to shore at nightfall. The confrontation continued in the morning when the mob seized a ferry in a desperate attempt to intercept the steamboat. Again, the troops fired, killing 3 more men. Estimates of the number of people killed in these incidents would vary from 5 to 16. Some said that a number of innocent women and children died. The state troops with their prisoners were then allowed to leave the area without further trouble. Governor Luke Blackburn issued an order commending the state troops, using words that Afro-Americans accused of crimes would have appreciated. Using words that Afro-Americans accused of crimes would have appreciated, the governor proclaimed that the state needed to maintain the law and must not be ruled by lynchers, regulators, and others intent on taking the law into their own hands. On several occasions after a white had been lynched, officials conducted extensive probes and attempted to bring the guilty to justice to demonstrate that the law could not be violated in their community. On the first day of the year in 1895, a mob seized Thomas Blair, B-L-A-I-R, a white man reputed to be a desperate character, from the jail in Mount Sterling. Blair had recently been acquitted of murder, but was back in jail on a charge of reckless shooting while drunk. 30 masked men easily surprised the jailer. They carried Blair to the yard of the Kentucky and South Atlantic Railroad and hanged him from a wooden trestle. A note was pinned to his body. We find Thomas Blair guilty of the murder of Captain J.L. Bowman, B-O-W-M-A-N, and hang him this January 1st, 1895, to avenge the rights of law-abiding citizens. Not the law handling carrying out the sentence. Friends of Captain J.L. Bowman. It was signed Friends of Captain J.L. Bowman, and all they ass should have been arrested. A number of civic leaders of Mount Sterling were determined that the lynchers be punished. At a mass meeting on the night of January 14th, several hundred people approved the naming of a committee to assist the police in their investigation. They did so because of growing displeasure with the police department's lack of interest in the case and its report that the men responsible for the lynching were unknown. Funds were raised to secure the services of George W. Drake, D-R-A-K-E, a private detective, to help identify the lynchers. The investigation was given a boost when the county judge not only issued a charge to the grand jury to indict the men responsible for Blair's death, but also extended the term of the grand jury into February in the hope of solving the murder. Is that because it was a white man? Most likely. The lynching indicated that lawlessness existed in Mount Sterling, the judge explained. Drake and the committee produced immediate and startling results when they identified a number of prominent citizens as having been involved in the lynching. Drake had both the county jailer and the chief of police arrested as the leaders of the mob. Over the next several days, more than a dozen men were arrested, including the county sheriff's son. One attempted suicide. The investigation created further controversy when the people under indictment charged that Drake was employed by their political opponent, who was determined to take control of Mount Sterling. In an attempt to further discredit the investigation, the men charged with Blair's lynching had Drake arrested on a murder warrant for participating in the mob that hanged Oscar Morton of Powell County, a white man who had killed the sheriff of Bettyville in the fall of 1894. Ultimately, the entire controversy ended with no one standing trial for the lynching. Yet the outrage of the people did have an effect. Blair would be the last person lynched in Mount Sterling. As the Blair lynching shows, most white Kentuckians were opposed to lynching in principle, but approved of the mob murders that happened in their own area. Henry Watterson, W-A-T-T-E-R-S-O-N, proved to be an exception. He moved from justifying lynchings and rebuking those who denounced the practice to condemning lynchings, regardless of the offense committed. In Louisville, there was another outspoken white foe of lynching, who in fact denounced the practice much earlier than Watson did. In 1886, John Albert Brodus, Broadus, a minister and a professor at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, wrote a long letter to the Courier Journal addressing what he called a question of justice, of fundamental right, of essential civilization, of human welfare. The practice of lynching was growing worse all the time and would prove to be, Brodus predicted, destructive of civilization, and would prove to be, Brodus predicted, destructive of civilization. Mhm. Unlike most of his contemporaries, he believed that the threat of being lynched did not deter criminals. The idea of having all the facts searched out and proved against him, having his guilt fully established, and then having to wait for weeks with a knowledge that at last he would be hung, there's really something more terrible about this than attaches to the prospect of lynching. Compounding the problem in the South was the presence of many ignorant and often degraded white people. And this mighty mass of colored people. Ooh. Compounding the problem in the South was this presence of many ignorant and often degraded white people and this mighty mass of colored people. But significantly, Brodus quickly and forcefully explained that not all blacks was alike. That within the South, there existed a group of Afro-Americans that whites must work with. There's a goodly number of intelligent Negroes who really take sound and wholesome views of the situation. If we continue to tolerate lynching, we lead these better Negroes to think that we are the enemies of all their race. We alienate the better class from the support of justice and government and civilization, Brodus concluded. I appeal to the thoughtful men, wherever the Courier Journal is read. Will you not come out and condemn this business of lynching? Will you not openly disparage and oppose and stop it? We can stop it. Is not this our duty? Is it not high time? Considering that this letter was written when the American public often applauded the lynching bees, when views on blacks as inferior were widely voiced, the opinions of Brodus are enlightening. He, unlike the majority of whites of that day, saw the importance of not alienating this better class of Negroes. Brodus even went so far as to write the word Negro with a capital N, a polite and correct gesture that white newspapers and magazines refused to allow. Like Brodus, a number of prominent blacks spoke out against lynchings, pleading with white America to take steps and end the practice. Frederick Douglass, the nation's most respected black, pointed out that lynching was destroying the moral fabric of the nation. Under no circumstances could a society excuse or defend lynch law because, as he forcefully argued, by its very nature, lynching was a crime more far-reaching, dangerous, and deadly than the crime it is intended to punish. In his view, Northern whites were as guilty as Southerners for the continuation of this brutal practice. The sin against the Negro is both sectional and national, and until the voice of the North shall be heard in emphatic condemnation and withering reproach against those continued ruthless mob law murderers, it will remain equally involved with the South in this common crime. According to the newspaper editor, Ida B. Wells, black people defending themselves provided the only sure remedy to the lynching epidemic. Citing an incident in Paducah, Kentucky, in which black people had armed themselves to prevent a lynching, she explained, "The lesson this teaches, and which every Afro-American should ponder well, is that a Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every black home, and it should be used for that protection which the law refuses to give." Once whites realized they were likely to be killed for attacking a black, they would avoid lynching parties. But if blacks remained passive and dependent on the white legal process, then more lynchings would occur. The more of the African American yields and cringes and begs, the more he has to do so, the more he is insulted, outraged, and lynched. Picking up their weapons, as advised by Wells, was the only one of several methods blacks used to challenge the numerous assaults and lynchings in Kentucky during the last 35 years of the 19th century. I said during the last 35 years of the 19th century. In the years immediately after slavery, they sent several long, detailed petitions to Congress, documenting racial violence and urging that body to intervene in their behalf. But it would be in the many conventions held in the late 1800s where black leaders best expressed their disappointment with the lack of positive action to end racial violence. At a large gathering in Lexington, Kentucky in November 1867, they protested discrimination in public accommodations and the lawlessness rampant in the state. At a convention in Louisville, Kentucky, almost 2 decades later, blacks were still demanding that state officials grant them equal rights and take measures to end lawlessness. When charged with grave offenses, the jail is mobbed and the accused is taken out and hanged. And out of the hundreds of such cases since the war, not a single high-handed murderer has even brought before a court to answer for it. The group urged the state legislature to appoint an investigative committee to find out why lynchings were occurring and what could be done to stop them. Growing out of the 1885 convention was a relatively short-lived organization, the State Protective Union, whose avowed purpose was to defend ourselves against mobs, assassins, and other obstructions that impede our progress. Founders of the union said that only a collective action could only by collective action could blacks hope to end white violence. Since freedom, we have been the prey and game for prejudicial whites. Since freedom, we have been the prey and game for prejudicial whites, and will continue so as long as we are scattered like the dust in a whirlwind. At the end of the century, black leaders at another convention urged state officials to adopt measures to ensure that the rights of blacks was no longer violated at will. We asked not for special treatment, just equal treatment. The black leaders stated. The delegates at the 1898 convention concluded with a ringing denouncement of lynch law. Men of our race have been lynched in this state when they had only been accused of a crime ranging from simple petty larceny to murder and rape. And as some members of the bar are in favor of lynchings, we are indeed amazed. As the appeals from the convention show, black leaders of the late 19th century tried to work within the system and avoided urging members of their race to adopt a more militant stance. On at least one occasion, however, an anonymous writer urged Kentucky blacks to meet violence with violence. It is not at all surprising that the white chose to remain anonymous, for he surely must have known how whites would react to such a call. His comments appeared in the New York Freeman, a newspaper that circulated widely in a number of Kentucky cities during the 1880s. Blacks, he declared, were not receiving justice in the state. White men blacked their face to commit crimes and elude the law. The whites concoct all kinds of devilish schemes in the South and lay them on the colored man or woman so they can slyly exterminate us by mobs or imprisonment. To prove his point, he then produced figures from some unknown source on the number of blacks who have been victimized in Kentucky. There have been shot 250, assassinated 78, burnt 26, waylaid. What is waylaid? We haven't seen that before. What is waylaid? What is waylaid? We're gonna write that down so we can look it up. And you know, waylaid. Mob 629. The total is 1,045 black men and women killed since 1869, and still Judge Lynch devours us every day. We have seen our mothers, wives, sisters, and daughters beaten, shot, cut, seduced, deprived of the protection of the law. We have appealed to the courts, but in vain. We are hung or sent to prison for merely nothing. The county sheriff or jailer opens his prison doors to the mob. His figures are suspect since he failed to provide any documentation. Clearly, however, this anonymous writer had lost patience with the system. We cannot stand it any longer. We should kill as well as be killed. Despite the risk of having white people misconstrue their attempts at self-defense as threats of black domination, Afro-Americans did at times resort to arms to protect themselves and their families. That several blacks were indicted on charges of killing Klan members attests in part to their willingness to defend themselves. Afro-Americans often stood watch over jails to prevent the lynchings that they knew was coming. In September 1889, a black was arrested in Mount Sterling on a burglary charge. Fearing that he would be lynched, a group of blacks armed themselves and stood watch over the jail. White people was upset, claiming that black people intended to release the suspect from the jail. They know damn reason why they was there. Although the situation remained tense, no lynching occurred. More often, however, attempts by blacks to prevent a lynching failed, not for a lack of determination to face the mob, but because local officials refused to allow armed blacks to remain in the vicinity of the jailhouse. They ran the armed blacks off. Rumors of retaliation by Afro-Americans became commonplace after many lynchings, just like Ike Fitzgerald. Well, we can't say for sure that the black people at that time set the fires after Ike Fitzgerald was lynched. But since white people claim they don't know who did it, no one ever said, hey, yeah, I set the fires, you know. And this was like in 1908, 1909, I believe. Rumors of retaliation. Oh, no, I already read that. It is unclear, however, whether they had actually made threats or whether white insecurities resulting from the lynchings led to these wild rumors. We don't know. In 1886, 5 blacks died at the hands of lynch mobs in the small community of Auburn, Logan County. That's Auburn, and that's in Logan County, Auburn, Kentucky. Yeah. The day after the last lynching, that of Meredith Jones, Meredith Jones. A newspaper correspondent noted that blacks had congregated on several street corners where they gestured towards whites in an ominous manner, telling them to come on. They were telling them to come on. Mm-hmm. Rumors quickly spread that blacks was threatening to kill the constable who had been guarding Jones, and several men identified as members of the lynch mob. I passed a street corner where a number of Negroes were talking, and one said there would be a heap of houses burned in Auburn this summer. Whether this account is accurate or the figment of the white reporter's mind is impossible to tell. Nevertheless, for a period of time after the lynching, Auburn white people Auburn whites guarded the streets at night. For whatever reason, no further lynchings occurred in the community. White fears about blacks seeking revenge for lynchings most surely continued during the 1890s. The lynching of John Henderson in Midway, Henderson, in Midway, Midway, for the murder of Gilbert Satterwhite, Satterwhite, led to a period of unrest among white people. According to the Louisville Court Journal, groups of Afro-Americans visited the site of the lynching for several days after Henderson's death. Once again, a white reporter heard blacks make threats against white people. Ultimately, no violence occurred. Whites had remained armed and on guard for some time. The next year in nearby Georgetown, blacks did resort to arson after the lynching of James Dudley for murder. We got a couple of pictures here. Let's see, I'm going to read it. The Shelbyville lynchings. The Shelbyville lynchings, depicted in Petit Parisien, Petitparisien, a Paris newspaper, on October the 20th, 1901. The newspaper's account of the incident was greatly distorted. A few days ago in Shelbyville, Kentucky, 23 Negroes charged with murdering a white female were torn away from their cells by the crowd. Despite their protestations, their prayers, their tears, all of them were hanged. And this is the picture here. If you can see that picture right there. Well, I got it blurred out. Let me see if I can unblur it. How do you do that? I don't think I'll be able to unblur it. Video file, no, that's not it. I wish I could. Oh, here it is right here. Let me take the blur off so y'all can see the picture. This is the picture here. And you see the black, you see brother right there. And they got the thing around his neck. You see, that's him right there, and that's the thing around his neck. And you see brother hanging in the corner over there. There's a man hanging over here in a tree, and then there's another man hanging on this side somewhere. Ooh. Oh, my ancestors. And then you see there's another brother right there that they've just captured. And yeah, I can't imagine the terror that they was feeling. The lynching of Will Porter, as depicted in Le Petit Journal, a Paris newspaper, on May 7, 1911. The newspaper story of the lynching is inaccurate, but it did err in reporting that the shooting victim was murdered. He recovered. Despite the efforts of American authorities, it is still very common for Negroes to be lynched in the United States. Here is one case, performed with unique taste. In Livermore, Kentucky, a Negro charged with murdering a white male was dragged away by the crowd to the opera and there tied to a post. Then some people in the crowd fired shots at the Negro and killed him. This was the story in one of the other books. I think it was 1919. And they drugged brother William Porter. They drug him into that theater and put him on the stage and set him on fire. As soon as they set him on fire, they shot him. Over 100 men shot him, I believe. It was in one of the other videos. But that's him. And you can see all of them with their guns. After they set him on fire, then they, shot him. Shot him up and stuff. The lynching of 4 black men in Logan County, Kentucky. This was August 1908. I don't know. It's graphic, y'all. I think I need to get out of this right here. You see the brothers? This right here is our racial reconciliation. I don't know what everybody else talking about, but no, this right here is what it's going to take for racial reconciliation. To hell with the bullshit. You can tell them I said it. We ain't reading nothing else. Ain't no racial reconciliation. White people want to keep ignoring this. We want to keep ignoring this. It won't never be no racial reconciliation. Ain't nobody reconciling a damn thing. That's a lie. The public hanging of Rainey Bethel in Owensboro, Kentucky on August the 14th, 1936. The circus-like atmosphere of this event hastened the end of public executions in Kentucky. The public hanging of Rainey Bethel, Rainey Bethea, and this was in Owensboro, Kentucky on August the 14th, 1936. Look at all these damn people that came here to this lynching, because they put them in the newspapers that there will be a black person lynched. Look at all them people that came out. Is this the one with 50,000 people came to watch this black man be lynched? Like a spectacle. It is like a spectacle. A hearse encounters difficulty making its way through the crowd of 20,000 people. Oh, it was 20,000 people who witnessed Bethel's execution in Owensboro, Kentucky. School children and mothers with their babies were among the throng. The hearse was trying to get to the gallows to remove Bethel's body. And that's the hearse. 20,000 people. 20,000 people. All these Jesuses being executed. Let me some water. Take a break. I'll be back. That's some bullshit. I mean, for real. Oh, shit. I apologize for that. I had to go get me a cup of water so I can just drink me some tea because man. Check out my mug. I attract peace, I attract wealth, I attract success, I attract prosperity. You can get this mug right here at Lynnmonade.com. Lynnmonade. Ooh, let's just get through this chapter right here. Ooh, these some long chapters, though. I tell you, I don't know if we gonna finish it. Ooh, that's it. That's the end of this chapter right here. Wow, look at them. Look. We'll see. During the night following Dudley's brutal death, the property of several prominent citizens believed responsible for the lynching was set on fire. After additional fires occurred on successive nights, Georgetown officials requested 100 rifles from the state capitol. A group of men patrolled the streets and issued warnings to Afro-Americans not to venture out after dark. But after the show of force, white leaders thought it necessary to seek the assistance of black leaders in resolving the matter. A conference was held yesterday with the more conservative colored men, and they pledged to keep the peace. They talked with the obstreperous, obstreperous, obstreperous element. Yeah, they talked with the obstreperous element. Georgetown, like Auburn, would have no additional lynchings. On June 10, 1892, Charlie Hill of Paducah, Kentucky, was lynched for the attempted rape of a white woman. Move it down. In July, the arrest of a black man for peeping through windows at white women sparked hostilities and an outcry from blacks that nothing had been done to apprehend the men responsible for Hill's death. A black leader, identified only as Parker, convinced several men to stand watch in front of the jailhouse to prevent another lynching. On the night of July 11th, a group of white people approached the area. The black people fired, fatally wounding a white soldier, Elmer Edwards. That blacks had dared shoot upon whites and kill one of them led to a panic in Paducah, Kentucky, and wild rumors of black domination. It was widely believed in the white community that in the months since Hill's death, black leaders had secretly shipped weapons to Paducah. The headline of the Hickman Courier, the newspaper of a nearby city, proclaimed, "Race war at Paducah." Paducah authorities, who had been reluctant to act when the life of a black man had been threatened, quickly moved into action. At the urging of the mayor, the governor sent the state militia to Paducah. Police officers seized all of the weapons from the hardware stores and dispersed them among white citizens. Instead of locking up the weapons for safekeeping, all honey, they went and started getting the guns out of the stores and stuff, giving the guns to white people and stuff, and they already had their guns and stuff. Yeah. The city council instituted a dusk to dawn curfew. According to rumors, blacks was making plans to attack the city and lynch a white man who was in jail for the murder of a black man. The sheriff deputized 75 men to protect him from the anticipated mob, the black man. The sheriff deputized 75 men to protect him from the anticipated mob. Another story circulated of a Negro's bold deed, BOLDDEED. An unidentified black had attempted to kiss a white woman. Oh, that was the bold deed, attempting to kiss a white woman. Two black men entered town after dark on the evening of July the 13th. Two armed whites ordered the men to halt. Obviously afraid, one of the blacks panicked and ran and was shot down. Shortly thereafter, the troops arrived from Frankfort. City officials decided that a search of the woods and the black community would be conducted in the morning to end the trouble. An unknown number of Afro-Americans, all identified by white people as leaders, was arrested, and more than 200 firearms were seized, took all the protection they had. By July the 16th, with the trouble past and his men ready to leave town, the adjutant general of the state troops issued a parting statement. The white people of Paducah, he bluntly said, had blown the trouble in their town out of proportion. In Mayfield, Kentucky, a community 30 miles from Paducah, Jim Stone and Henry Findley, Finley, were lynched, and another black was killed in December 1896, a time when several other lynchings occurred in Kentucky. The accounts presented by white newspapers, even the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune, said that a conspiracy by Afro-Americans had precipitated Stone's lynching on December the 22nd. According to the Tribune, while the reports in many cases are somewhat vague, belief that they have some real foundation is shown by the fact that before Stone was killed, he and other Negroes were unusually insolent towards white people, that they were armed and omitted no occasion to provoke quarrels with unarmed whites. It was Jim Stone's conspicuous leadership in this sort of behavior that caused his taking off by mob violence. This view, of course, did nothing more than provide a rationale for the lynchings. Indeed, after lynching Stone, the white mob left a note warning several other blacks to leave town. And these threats on their lives caused a number of black people to arm themselves and prepare for an attack. Within hours of Stone's death, several incendiary fires, INCENDIARY, several incendiary fires lit up the sky. Blacks was blamed for the fires, even though no witnesses placed them at the scene. Details were equally vague on who shot Charles Bolden, Bolin. He was wounded during an exchange of gunfire when he and other whites entered a bar in the Afro-American community to begin the forced removal of the notorious blacks. Also, they went in a black bar claiming they finna remove the notorious blacks when he was shot. That's why he was shot. The Bolden shooting, though he might have been accidentally wounded by a member of the white mob, could have been, probably was, led to wild rumors that black people was attacking white people. Because, I think it was in Move 9 when they bombed the Africa family and killed 11 people, 5 adults and 6 kids and stuff. And they motherfucking ass just released that they found the little girl body at their museum they've been having for 35 years. Let me get back to this right here. Yes. Just a whole bunch of lies and shit. Ain't nothing been sincere. Ain't nothing been sincere for black folks. Yeah, okay, let me get back to this. The Bolden shooting, though he might have been accidentally wounded by a member of the white mob, led to wild rumors that blacks were attacking whites. Oh, I just wanted to say that in the Move 9, the first officer that was killed, I think he was killed by one of his own, by an officer, friendly fire. And they tried to say that it was Move 9 that fired the first shot and stuff. Same thing, pretty much. I think that's what happened. When spreading these rumors, whites failed to note that blacks were merely protecting their property. Instead of calling upon the state for support, Mayfield white people proclaimed their determination to end the crisis they set. More than 100 men were deputized, given arms, and told to guard the streets. White people also took steps to disarm all African American people. Well, nobody black's supposed to have no gun. With the blessing of city fathers, the white deputies entered the black community and burned to the ground 4 homes owned by men they identified as troublemakers. Yep. Shots was fired into scores of other homes. Fearing for their lives, the blacks who had been warned to leave fled Mayfield, probably never to return. Throwing up the white flag, more than 100 black people sent a petition to City Hall asking for an end to the violence and promising that no Afro-Americans would seek revenge for the lynchings and the destructions of numerous black-owned properties. Ain't that some shit? Oh, they asked black people asking to end the violence. And then they had to promise that now we won't hold no grudge for the slaughter and the lynching that y'all just did to our people. And we wonder why white folks are so motherfucking sweet and nice. Like in that last video, that white man celebrating his 89th birthday. Yeah, I'm telling it again. And brother, the trucker, congratulated him. You almost made it to 100. You got some memories. And his ass gonna say, yeah, I got some memories. And told him about all the many times they would just leave the black babies in the fire. But that one black baby he made eye-to-eye contact with, he always had nightmares of that baby. And he 89 now. He know his ass finna die now. And now he feel, why tell us? You know, how long was he a damn firefighter? You mean tell me for 30, 40 years, you ignored black babies and said, oh, I couldn't get to them. That's what they did. He said that's what they all did because the times was different. But I don't care how different the times was. Who would do that? What type of force is that to be anti-life? And we don't know. We don't want to know. Several points. Oh, let me back up. Throwing up the white flag. Let me read that one more time. More than 100 blacks sent a petition to City Hall asking for an end to the violence and promising that no Afro-Americans would seek revenge for the lynchings and the destruction of numerous black-owned properties. By Christmas Eve, peace had been restored in Mayfield, Kentucky. Yeah. Peace was restored in Mayfield, Kentucky. Long as black people forget about it, don't you think about nothing. Don't worry about the smoke you still smell. The tears still coming out of your eyes because you saw the one you love burn. You ignore all of that. And we gonna keep the peace. What peace? Woo! By Christmas Eve, peace had been restored in Mayfield, Kentucky. Do you know what them words mean? We still keeping the peace. And we still keeping the peace. We ain't even looking like ourselves. Hell, they looking like us. No wonder the theft of melanin is to learn everything. Woo-wee. See, this whole thing, it's time to wake the fuck up. Several points must be emphasized about the alleged black uprisings in the 1890s. See, black people did fight back. Local authorities consistently refused to take steps to prevent the lynchings of a black person. In Paducah, even after the arrest of a second black on a sex crime, they still refused to adopt measures to deter the mob. Yet at the very suggestion that blacks might try to deter the mob, that blacks might try to prevent a lynching, that's when city officials responded as though blacks were seeking revenge and asked the governor to send men and weapons. We got to read that again, because that did not even make sense to me. In Paducah, even after the arrest of a second black on a sex crime, they still refused to adopt measures to deter the mob. Yet at the very suggestion that blacks might try to prevent a lynching, city officials responded as though blacks were seeking revenge and asked the governor to send them men and some weapons. Ain't that some shit? By picking up arms to prevent lynchings or forced removal from their homes, black people in Paducah, Mayfield, and other Kentucky communities asserted the right to defend themselves. I know that's right. Let's read that again. By picking up arms to prevent lynchings or forced removal from their homes, where they just come and take the black out of the home and go lynch them and stuff. Black folks are like, nope. Blacks in Paducah, Mayfield, and other Kentucky communities asserted the right to defend themselves. White people, however, viewed this as a militant threat to the status quo and took steps to disarm and punish the black people that they deemed responsible for this. Shouldn't every man, if white authorities are to be believed, in the vast majority of lynchings, it proved impossible to identify, much less arrest and prosecute the white people involved in mob murders. Yet even without eyewitnesses, the Paducah authorities had no problem arresting the Afro-Americans believed responsible for the riot and for the death of the white soldier. The same proved true in Mayfield. The homes of the alleged black instigators were put to the torch. Without question, Afro-Americans outraged by the lynchings was determined to bring the practice to an end. We've been trying to get rid of this shit for the longest. The evidence suggests that Paducah black people guarded the jailhouse only to prevent another lynching, not to have an excuse for hanging a white murder suspect or to seek revenge on white lynchers. Blacks were compelled to act because they understood that all of them were vulnerable to mob attacks. Their efforts to prevent further lynchings brought mixed results. In some areas, the lynching bees ended, while in Paducah, for example, another black was seized by the mob the very next year. Nevertheless, blacks had shown that they were far from passive, and they were willing to do more than protest racial violence than write letters to the newspaper. During the 1890s, Kentucky blacks had two important white allies in their efforts to end racial violence. 1890s, end racial violence. 2024, 25, we still trying to end racial violence. Now we have a pastor, a brother, a pastor, said him and his white brethren want to read the Bible, want to use the Bible as sufficient. I ain't got no Bible. I don't know what I'm looking for. As sufficient text to bring about racial reconciliation between white people and black people. What the hell about the truth of what white people have done? Him and his friends, you mean to tell me that pastor and his brethren don't want to talk about the atrocities, the cannibalistic actions and tortures that they did, their people did? We just want to ignore all of that. And what we're going to read in the Bible, we're going to ignore slaves obey your master too. This is what's sufficient for racial reconciliation, if it's to be any had. If it's to be any had. And if don't nobody want to, I don't blame them. So let's find out about these white allies. During the 1890s, Kentucky blacks had two important white allies in their efforts to end racial violence. In January 1895, Judge M.L. Buchwalter, Buchwalter, of Cincinnati, sparked a bitter controversy between Ohio and Kentucky officials when he refused an extradition request from Kentucky to return a black man wanted for the shooting of a white man. Buchwalter used the occasion to denounce lynch law in the bluegrass state and to rebuke Kentucky officials for not protecting the lives of their citizens. According to accounts from white Kentucky newspapers, A.H. Hampton, a black school teacher in Whitewood, Greene County, assaulted J.C. Durham in June 1893. Hampton had owed money to Durham, a local merchant, but had refused to pay him. Durham made one last effort to collect the payment, and Hampton, according to the white newspapers, was greatly enraged. After the white merchant left, Hampton, unobserved by Durham, slipped close behind him and placed a muzzle of a pistol immediately under Durham's ear, but it misfired. Durham fell to the ground, and the black man struck him repeatedly with a stone. This brutal attack left Durham near death, and 2 years later, he was still far from being a well man. As usual, the white newspapers found the black to be undesirable in other respects as well. The Courier Journal, quoting white people from Greene County, said that Hampton's reputation here is decidedly unsavory. About 5 years ago, he was charged by the trustees of the colored schools with having seduced one of his pupils, a girl under 12. And a warrant of arrest was issued, but the girl was spirited away and the charges was dropped. After the incident with Durham, Hampton fled Greene County and somehow made his way to Cincinnati, Ohio, honey. He was staying there. Under the name of Alex Jackson, he became the pastor of a small black church. A deputy sheriff from Greene County, W.W. Penn, a relative of Durham, spent more than a year following Lee's before finding Hampton in Cincinnati. In late December 1894, while Hampton was preaching, Penn and Cincinnati law officers placed him under arrest. Penn would later say members of the congregation threatened his life when he removed the black preacher. Penn then appeared before the local judge, Buchwalter, to have Hampton's extradition papers signed. At the hearing, Hampton protested, saying that his return to Greene County meant death, even though he was only accused of assault, not murder. Judge Buchwalter agreed, declaring that Hampton would remain in the custody of Cincinnati authorities until Governor John W. Brown of Kentucky and the sheriff of Greene County gave assurances that Hampton would be protected from a mob. Buchwalter, then he made a dramatic statement. He was greatly distressed by the many lynchings occurring in Kentucky, and especially that of Louis Lafortet, Lafordette, in Burlington, Boone County, in July 1894. Buchwalter had agreed to the request of Governor Brown to return Lafortet to Kentucky. Kentucky's governor wasted little time in replying to Buchwalter. Personally offended by the suggestion that he failed to enforce the law, Brown explained that the Constitution of the United States called for the return of fugitives to the place where their crimes had been committed. He had gone through the proper channels, sending a requisition, requisition, to Ohio Governor William McKinley for Hampton. Therefore, it was the duty of Buchwalter to abide by the law instead of indulging himself in an unwarranted arraignment of Kentucky. Brown then made a revealing statement. It is much to be regretted that we have occasionally the mob violence in this Commonwealth. But it has always been when the passions of the people have been inflamed by the commission of the most atrocious crimes. His statement was a frank admission that lynchings were necessary to avenge the most atrocious crimes. During Brown's 4 years as governor, from 1892 to 1895, 56 lynchings occurred. But instead of denouncing this lawlessness, he justified it. Indeed, Brown went on to say, I venture the suggestion that communities in Ohio have not escaped the manifestation under similar circumstances. Butch Walter's actions, Brown concluded, practically invited other fugitives from justice in the South to make Ohio their asylum, with the assurance that if their return shall be demanded, it will be ignored. Showing that they too wanted to uphold the honor of the state, members of the rival Republican Party of Kentucky strongly endorsed Brown's comments. On January the 4th, Butchwater heard arguments on whether or not Hampton should be turned over to Greene County officials. The papers requesting Hampton's return, his lawyer persuasively argued throughout the hearing, were vague and probably not valid. The attorney with Deputy Sheriff Penn did admit to having only duplicate copies of the requisition and the indictment issued for Hampton by the Greene County Grand Jury. The next day, Butchwater issued his ruling, freeing Hampton on purely technical grounds of irregularity and informing. The next day, Butchwater issued his ruling, freeing Hampton on purely technical grounds of irregularity and informality in the requisition documents from Kentucky. Well, damn! Although resorting to the technicality to throw out the extradition request, Butchwater had been compelled to act because of his belief that Hampton would be lynched. To make sure that Kentucky authorities clearly understood why he was allowing Hampton to go free, Butchwater also issued a lengthy opinion. Reading is fundamental, for real. Oh, I'm just here to turn him over now. Is that what they saying? Free? He turned him over to them? When he was saying he wasn't going to do it. Let's keep going. Let's go. To make sure that Kentucky authorities clearly understood why he was allowing Hampton to go free. Oh, he might have turned him free. Let him be free so he could get away. Butchwater also issued a lengthy opinion. His statement, which was unsparing in its condemnation of lynch law in the Bluegrass State, also spelled out the responsibility of judges to ensure that all citizens receive the protection of the law. That's what he said. The proof before me not only raises a strong probability, but is convincing that the prisoner would have been dealt with unlawfully had I remanded him just preceding New Year's Day, and would be now without any outspoken assurance from those in authority that he would be protected. His own testimony was peculiarly impressive, given corroborating facts and circumstances as to the threats and the probabilities of violence in that vicinity, especially to one of his color, charged with an offense against a white man. Some of these circumstances are technically admitted by the agent of Kentucky in his statement. The statistics before me show that 19 people have been illegally executed in the Commonwealth of Kentucky within the past 12 months by lynching in the exercise of individual vengeance. 12 of them within the past 6 months. whose names and places were given in the statistics. One of those was Louis Lafortet, killed at midnight, July 18, 1894, just after I, as judge of this court, had remanded him upon requisition of Governor of Kentucky and the warrant of the Governor of Ohio. He handed him over. The processes of law were in due form. His defense was shooting to wound the prosecuting witness, who soon after appeared in this court with his wounded hand to identify the prisoner. So far as I can learn, there has been no effort by the executive officers of Kentucky to prosecute his murderers, nor in fact any of the 19 mobs who murdered citizens in that state. Nor have I learned of any regret expressed to those who love law and order for the bad faith in thus killing the prisoners remanded from this state upon the faith that he would be tried according to the law upon the charge contained in the requisition. I do not recite these horrible deeds to irritate or to be disrespectful to anyone, but these are facts brought to my knowledge, and as to Lafortet, painfully so, and are proper to be considered by me in connecting with the other proof as to any duty in remanding this prisoner. Looking backward to the Lafortet case, it is not now quite certain that those desiring to lynch him went through the form of beginning criminal proceedings, and based on them, they obtained a requisition of the governor of Kentucky, and then the warrant of the governor of Ohio, and finally the order of this court. Is there any doubt but that the forms of the law were used for none other than the wicked and unlawful purposes of bringing the prisoner to a convenient place to kill him? Had we the information by foresight that we now have by hindsight is to be held to be the law that the Constitution of the United States would have made it the duty of either the governors or myself to aid in thus surrendering that prisoner to violence because it was asked in due form of law. When I am now satisfied that a like purpose is intended in these proceedings as to Hampton, it is my duty, because of the due form of law, to send him to the death. Is it my duty, because of the due form of law, to send him to his death unlawful? I answer no. It will be a perversion of the purposes of the constitutional provision. Most certainly, I agree that when the proceedings are in due form of law, good faith is to be imputed to them and to the purposes for which they are instituted. But that presumption may be overcome by proof to the contrary. I felt myself in duty bound to do this before I became a judicial agent to deliver a second prisoner, most probably to some violent hands. If the governor had thus been forewarned in Lafortet's case, I might not now have the recollection that I am unwillingly an agent in the name of law to his violent death. And had such assurance been given either directly to the judge or indirectly through the governor of Ohio, it would have been in the interest of humanity and had served in the execution of justice according to the forms of law. Besides, it would have rallied the adherents of law and order who predominate in numbers in every community of the state, as elsewhere in this country. If I have erred in overzealous care in this regard, owing to my peculiar experience in like proceedings, it is to my mind with a higher sense of duty under my oath to support the Constitution of the United States than if I negligently aided in executing a process under constitutional form used for ulterior and illegal purposes. I will hold the prisoners on this ground for the further consideration of the governor of Ohio, but considering the defect hereunto found in the requisition papers after a second attempt to have them corrected. I now discharge the prisoner. Yeah. Afro-Americans in Kentucky and Ohio applauded the actions of Judge Buchwald. After thanking the judge for saving his life, Hampton said that Cincinnati would be his permanent home. A group of Ohio blacks met and praised Buchwald, saying that his name would rank with that of William L. Garrison and other abolitionists. One enthusiastic black wrote a poem in honor of the judge. They vowed to form a civil rights league to protect blacks and to challenge whites to abide by the law. In a parting shot at Kentucky officials, Ohio blacks urged them to uphold the law in their state. Yet they also reminded blacks who were prone to commit crimes to not assume that Ohio had become a haven for criminals. Governor Brown issued a few parting words of his own. Buchwald had usurped powers that clearly rested with Ohio Governor William McKinley. With his eye toward a run for the White House, McKinley had stayed clear of the controversy. He didn't want to have nothing to do with it, saying that whether or not Hampton was returned to Kentucky was Buchwald's decision to make. Yeah, he steered clear of it, didn't he? Brown added, the statements of the judge are grossly inaccurate. His argument is a mere subterfuge and quibble. He has deliberately refused to execute the plain command of a law of the United States and subordinated it to his own caprices. He has reproached Kentucky for crimes of which his own great state is not guiltless. He has accepted the statement of a fugitive from justice that he feared unlawful violence, if removed, as a sufficient reason for his discharge. Greene County officials made one last attempt to have the black minister returned. Word reached Cincinnati that extradition papers were being prepared again, this time properly, now charging Hampton with grand larceny. Allegations were being made that in addition to shooting J.C. Durner, the black man had stolen his watch. This effort failed as well. The validity of the papers had never been the main issue that concerned Judge Buchwalter. 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 Instead, in case I'm saying his name wrong. Instead of adopting a position against lynch law, prosperity. Instead of adopting a position against lynch law that would convince the judge that Hampton would be protected, Governor Brown tried to show Ohio officials once again that he, not they, upheld the law. Upon receiving extradition papers from Dayton, Ohio for the return of a woman, he was quick to comply. As the Ohio paper speculated, it was the intention of Governor Brown to heap hot coals on the heads of Ohio officials by granting the request. Brown's successor as governor, Republican William O. Bradley, who had been elected with the solid backing of Afro-Americans, worked hard to end racial violence, consistently denouncing lynch mobs. Yeah, he was on them. Those who congregate and conspire to take human life are legally greater criminals than those whose lives they seek to take. For no crime is so base and repulsive as that committed under cloak of pretended vindication of law. That's like, brother killed sister. Or brother killed a white lady. He killed her. They put him in jail. 500 to 1,000 white people come storm the jail. Take him. Beat him. Cut off his fingers, toes. Cut off his stuff, mutilate him. And kill him. He took a life. Yeah. He took a life and he should be punished under law. But white people take the law into their own hands. And to debase the body like that, and then they throw the body on the fire, or they stick the body on that roasting thing so they could just roast it. And that seems so, even though he murdered someone, he shot someone, stabbed someone, choked someone, but yet you would actually mutilate a body and be in glee as you watch it burn, and little kids come up and cut off a toe, or like that woman came up and cut off the ear of William Brown. So yeah, this is racial reconciliation. Tell it. Yeah, I said it. This is it. Whoever that pastor was, if I get time, we're going to find that video. We're going to find him. This is what we need for racial reconciliation, if it's to be had. And like I said earlier, anybody, any of us that don't want racial reconciliation, whoever want to go Amish style, I don't blame them. Addressing the anti-mob and lynch law association in Springfield, Ohio, in January 1898, the governor declared that because mob violence was open contempt of the law, of the laws, the courts, and the administration of justice, it should be prevented at all costs, and when committed, should be quickly and severely punished. The commission of crime to punish crime can find no apologists in Christian civilization. It is difficult to imagine most of the governors from the border or southern states appearing before an anti-lynching organization and making such comments. Bradley's Springfield presentation drew the applause of Northern Republicans and Blacks from all parts of the nation. Bradley made a number of critical comments about the lack of action by the county judge and other officials of Maysville after the lynching of Richard Coleman. He chastised Judge James P. Tarvin, Judge James P. Tarvin, Tarvin. He chastised Judge James P. Tarvin for refusing to request state troops to protect Coleman upon his return from Covington. Bradley was extremely disappointed that the judge failed to apprehend the leaders of the mob or to offer rewards for their arrest. Under Kentucky law, the governor could offer a reward for the arrest and conviction of members of a lynch mob, but the request to do so had to originate in the county where the lynching occurred. Tarvin responded by blasting the governor, saying that Bradley had sent troops to Maysville area without a request when he thought their presence would benefit the Republican Party during an election, but wanted to shift his lack of action during the Coleman lynching to local authorities. Like everyone else, the governor knew what had awaited Coleman's return to Maysville. The county judge harshly concluded, and he was right, they knew. Hell, it was in the newspaper 5 days before. Well, what the other lynchings say? The county judge was there, the sheriff was there, the sheriff's son was there. They were the leaders. Other Kentuckians joined Judge Tarvin in criticizing Governor Bradley for the Coleman lynching and the many other mob-caused deaths that occurred during his administration. The Democrats delighted in reminding the public of Bradley's campaign promise to end mob violence. In the last week of December 1896, when a record number of lynchings, at least since the days of Reconstruction, occurred and violence was rampant in eastern Kentucky, Bradley was roundly condemned in the newspapers. Including some that were pro-Republican. After detailing candidate Bradley's many boastful statements to end mob violence, the Bolden Times concluded that he seemed incapable of doing anything to end the spirit of mob law rampant in the state. In fact, it must have dawned upon him by this time that the Democratic administrations were not, after all, wantonly remiss in the matter of crushing out the mob spirit in the state, and that it is a much bigger undertaking than he imagined. Several newspapers throughout the nation found Bradley's attitude toward the lynchings extremely puzzling. The Pittsburgh Post expressed the sentiment of many others, observing that Governor Bradley had made no effort to suppress the lawlessness that had claimed 7 lives in Kentucky within 1 week. Despite the criticism, Bradley did take steps in December 1896 to stop the bloodshed. He helped prevent a lynching in Paris, where Johnson Hope, Howe, a black man, was being held for the murder of a Cynthiana policeman, Cynthiana. Without waiting for a request from local authorities, Bradley had the 2nd Regiment on alert in a nearby community. He also wired several Western Kentucky communities to learn if the rumored black attack on Mayfield was real or not. And in spite of all the criticism, the number of lynchings declined significantly during Bradley's 4 years as governor, compared with the number of mob deaths during the Brown administration. A total of 56 lynchings occurred while Brown was governor. 10 in 1892, 14 in 1893, 17 in 1894, and 15 in 1895. During Bradley's term, 25 people died at the hands of lynch mobs. 9 in 1896, 7 in 1897, 7 in 1898, and 2 in 1899. Bradley kept his campaign promise, and he worked diligently for the passage of an anti-mob law. He called the legislature into special session in March 1897 to enact laws protecting the citizens from mobs and turnpike raiders. He wanted a bill making each county liable for damages from lynchings in the county, hoping that since all of the citizens would suffer financially, they would take the necessary steps to halt mob violence. Because you remember, other than killing, while they were killing black people, they were also burning down homes and businesses and ransacking cars and, their crops and their properties and stuff, just destroying everything. He wanted a bill making each county liable for damages from lynching in the counties, hoping that since all of the citizens would suffer financially, they would take the necessary steps to halt mob violence. Bradley's proposed bill placed the burden for prevention of a lynching on those in charge of the intended victim. When a prisoner is taken from the custody of a sheriff, jailer, or police officer, the officer in charge, knowing of the crime and having reasonable opportunity to take charge, fail to do so, shall forfeit his office. The governor's most radical proposal called for the arming of prisoners to protect themselves. No mob would be able to stand before the prisoner fighting for his life and the jailer or sheriff fighting for his office, the governor reasoned. In early May, compromises had been reached, and the proposed anti-lynching bill was introduced before the Senate by a Republican ally of the governor. When considering the number of lynchings in the state and the adamant refusal of local authorities to apprehend members of mobs, it is surprising that there was very little debate among the legislators over the proposed law. One newspaper speculated that the bill might die anyway, not because of any controversial features, but because the members of the Senate wanted to adjourn so that they could travel to Louisville for the Kentucky Derby. On May 11th, however, the bill passed overwhelmingly in the Senate and went on to the House. Finally, A negative voice was raised against the bill. The representative from Graves County, an area where several recent lynchings were still fresh in the minds of the people, Black people, explained that his objection to the proposed law was the feature allowing the sheriff to summon any citizen to assist in arresting a mob. That's what he opposed. And a refusal to go would subject any citizens to a fine of not less than $100 without making any provision for allowing him to give a good excuse. Despite his objection and that of one other member, the House passed a bill by a vote of 55-2. It was immediately signed into law by the governor. Entitled, An Act to Prevent Lynching and Injury to and Destruction of Real and Personal Property in this Commonwealth. The new law contained 11 sections. The first 3 sections define what constituted an unlawful mob and prescribe the penalties for inflicting punishment or death on persons removed from the custody of the law. Yeah. Section 4 gave law officers the power to summon able-bodied men to help protect that prisoner and levied a fine against them for refusing to do so. This section also gave the sheriff discretion to arm his inmates so they could protect themselves. One of the key provisions of the new law, and perhaps the most controversial, was found in Section 6. If a county judge, circuit judge, sheriff, or other peace officer fail to act, he shall, upon conviction, be fined not less than $100, nor more than $500, and shall forfeit his office as a penalty, in addition to the payment of said fine. Section 8 authorized the governor and the county judges to offer rewards for the apprehension of members of lynch mobs. County judges would use local funds for the rewards, while the governor would tap the state treasury for reward money. The governor could employ detectives to assist local officials in investigations of lynchings. Yeah, Section 9 levied a fine and a jail sentence against anyone circulating threatening letters or notices. The 11th section called for the immediate implementation of the new law. As mobs and righteous assemblages of persons in certain counties of this Commonwealth have for several months past been engaged and are now engaged in injuring and destroying real and personal property, and the good name of this Commonwealth demands that such unlawful conduct should be stopped as soon as possible. It is hereby declared that an emergency exists, and this act shall take effect when approved by the governor. Kentucky's law against mob violence was similar in many respects to the anti-lynching laws enacted in 3 northern and 5 southern states during the 1890s. In most places, especially in the South, these laws proved to be ineffectual because officials at every level of government refused to take steps necessary to enforce them. For instance, nearly all of these laws called for removing sheriffs who allowed their prisoners to be lynched. When this was not done, however, the law had been effectively nullified. Like Kentucky, a number of states called for a specific tax to be placed on a county where a lynching occurred. But as James Cutler, a professor who conducted research into the anti-lynching laws at the turn of the century, explained, we're going to have to cut this short. And he explained the possibility of an increase in the rate of taxation does not seem as yet to have had any restraining influence on the actions of people when occasion has arisen for a lynching. Race prejudice, the professor concluded, was the primary reason why the anti-lynching laws were not enforced. It is difficult to create a public sentiment against lynching because of the racial antipathy, antipathy, which aggravates the evil in certain sections of the United States. Although the anti-lynching law has been in effect for only a few years, several members of the Kentucky House and Senate called for changes at the turn of the century, adopting the same attitude as that of the legislature of 1897. Members of the General Assembly chose not to publicly debate the proposed changes. On March 17, 1902, the lawmakers completed their task when they amended and reenacted the anti-lynching law. Sections 5, 6, and 7 had been eliminated. Section 5, calling upon the county judge and sheriff to form a posse of no more than 10 men to prevent a toll gate house or bridge from being destroyed by a mob. And Section 7, specifying the amount of pay each guard was to receive when summoned into service to prevent a lynching, were rather minor. But the deletion of Section 6, which had called for the fining and removing of officials who failed to prevent lynching, was a serious blow to the anti-lynching law. The motivation for weakening the law against mob violence is unclear. Perhaps members of the legislature were moved, for instance, by a concern that if lynchings continued in their counties, judges or sheriffs who wielded considerable power and influence in local affairs stood the risk of being forced from office if the law was ever fully enforced. It is extremely difficult to fully assess the impact of Kentucky's anti-lynching law. At least 13 people died at the hands of mobs from July 1897, with Ephraim Brinkley, a Madisonville Black, being the first, and that's EPHRAIM BRINKLEY, with Ephraim Brinkley of Madisonville Black being the first through the end of 1899. Oh, at least 13 people died at the hands of mobs from July to 1897. Ephraim was the first one, and that was 1897 through 1899. This period included the lynching of Richard Coleman in Maysville, Kentucky, where the anti-lynching law was openly flouted in a circus-like atmosphere. Oh, it was like a circus, almost 70. Also, 70 more people were killed by lynch mobs from 1900 to 1934. Do these lynchings mean that the law was ineffective? On the other hand, since the number of lynchings declined in the 20th century, does that mean that the law prevented an even greater number of lynchings? Also, did the passing of a second anti-lynching law in 1920 indicate that the first law was lacking in several crucial respects? Or is it possible that the passing of anti-lynching laws in 1897 and again in 1920 reflected the public's growing uneasiness with lynchings, and that even without the laws, the number of lynchings would have decreased anyway? As has often been asked on numerous issues concerning race relations, did the law set the tone or did it reflect public attitudes? Within Kentucky, some of the credit for the decline in lynchings must be given to the new law. Several weeks after the law went into effect, a Black man, Talbot Stone, TALBOTTSTONE, was arrested and charged with the rape of a white woman in Glasgow, GLASGOW. Rape, more than murder or any other charge, usually led to a lynching. The sheriff, realizing that Stone might be lynched if he remained in Glasgow and that the lynching of the Black man could cost him his job, had the prisoner carried to Bolden Green, Kentucky for safety. In all likelihood, this was the first time a sheriff had removed a Black alleged rapist to a safe location until the start of his trial. The final outcome of the case is unknown, but significantly, Stone did not die at the hands of a lynch mob. He also escaped the gallows, something that Blacks had long argued would happen if accused rapists were protected from lynch mobs and given the chance to defend themselves in court. Woo, we did it! And tomorrow night, we will meet midnight with the ancestors And we will start chapter 6, meeting mob violence with renewed determination. Peace and power to the people. I know, right? Before the battery